that number is way lower, if not zero.
Is kind of predatory is the health system here in the United States. And it's because a lot of time it's like very much profit focused. I mean, I have seen everyone from Dr. Mike to Adam Conover back when the show Adam Ruins Everything was a thing. And they would basically talk about how many hospitals, when they give you that bill for like all of your treatments, a lot of times it's overly inflated prices or even just completely made up. And if you ever want to see like an example of that, just go on TikTok and look at the amount of new parents that disclose like how much they were charged by their hospitals just to deliver their newborns. And you would see just how insane some of these prices are. Like seeing people get charged thousands of dollars just for a bed in a room, or tens of thousands of dollars for an epidural, or a couple $100,000 for the actual delivery. And that's just for something like childbirth. And then if you go into like life-saving emergencies, then those things get inflated even more. You're talking about hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars sometimes. So I'm not even shocked to see that almost 2/3 of people who go for bankruptcy is because of medical.
And at the same time, the U.S. does not have one of the best healthcare systems in the world. We pay over $13,000 per capita. Meanwhile, Taiwan, which by most metrics has the best healthcare system and a national healthcare service, only pays about $2,500 per capita per year.
So what does that tell you?
That tells us
that's wasted expenditure.
Yes, that is a massively wasted expenditure.
That tells you the government doesn't know how to spend our money.
No,
they keep
in
raising
our case,
taxes.
we're
keep
spending.
No, I completely agree with that. I feel like the biggest issue with the United States government, as well as with a lot of us as American citizens, is we really lack basic money management. And I say that in a government sense as well. Like, I can't understand why we pay so much in taxes, and a lot of us never really see the benefits of it because a lot of it gets spent on nonsense. Like somebody talked about spending like tens of thousands of dollars on toilet paper, like just for government officials. So I really do believe that we have an issue when it comes to how we spend the tax revenue that we're actually paying the government. And if we could get that part in order, then we could get to a point where our money is being efficiently used, and that brings up everybody, in my personal opinion.
Money, and they don't know how to spend the money.
No, most of that money is coming from private insurance. In fact, 77% of the people who went bankrupt from medical debt had insurance and then lost it because they couldn't pay.
So we can address that, the fact that 60-something% of bankruptcies are due to health, which is, you're right. We've done many content on that piece. I want you to come back to incentive. Address the issue with incentive right now, with capitalism.
The reason why the medical debt is so high in that is because of the profit motive. If people will pay whatever it takes to not die, the profit motive in that case is perverse, because healthcare shouldn't be a market in the same way that other things might be a market.
So you don't think the motive to have profit, to come out with a solution, is a good thing for the marketplace, specifically in the healthcare side?
I think it depends on which market you're talking about. It's way different when we're talking about video games or cell phones or TVs or other goods that aren't as necessary as healthcare treatments.
To healthcare.
Agreed. This is like one of the few times I'll actually agree with any of the panelists. I feel like healthcare is one of those industries that shouldn't be as profit motive, at least when it comes to like public healthcare. Like if there's a public hospital that is government run and everything, that one should probably be more people first and less on profit. But private hospitals, unfortunately, they can do whatever they want. But on the public side, I do believe that we should be less profit focused for those kinds of medical institutions.
Yes, I'm talking specifically about healthcare and certain other markets where there's a natural...
You ever heard of Home Depot?
Yes, I'm aware.
So one of the guys who's the founders of Home Depot, investors of Home Depot, his name is Ken Langone. His father died at 62 years old. Ken Langone today is roughly 90 years old, give or take. When he died at 62 years old, he tells the story that if there was a simple thing as blood thinners, his father would have lived to be 90 years old just like he is today.
Yes, that makes sense.
Came because of innovation, which he's been on for many years. My dad's been on blood thinners for the last 40 years.
And there's the flip side to my argument. While I do still say that we should be less profit focused, I do also get that when it comes to these big companies, they are also the first ones who really do accelerate like their, how do I say this? They're the first ones who really accelerate like innovations, whether it is medical, tech, or anything like that. The big companies that we all grow up learning about and the big companies that we all learn to hate, they're the ones who really drive in a lot of the innovation for it. Please. So just saw my girlfriend spamming a bunch of hearts. Yeah, babe. The Streamlabs bot said, please do not do that.
So
I think
the
you're
incentive to create
conflating
solution,
two things right now. Not
No, it's
all
about
innovation
incentive. It's
is
about
the result
incentive.
of the market, because many healthcare
Most is,
developments
though.
are created by research grants from healthcare funding, whether it's in the United States or in
Over
other countries. In
2/3.
most other first world countries,
Yeah.
the result of medical research developments, which are massively outpacing that in the U.S. now because of our inefficiency, because we have a market-based system for healthcare.
A very basic
most
question
of that
for
is
you.
because
A very basic
of
question for
non-market-based
you.
systems.
Okay, this is a problem I have with both Patrick as well as just with everyone who does these shows. Like, I wish they could have it to where one person talks, the other mic's off. You know, kind of like how we did it in debates. One person talks, the other mic's off, and then give them a couple of seconds, a minute, maybe two, just to get it out, because they're both having actually good dialogue with each other, but it's just like one's trying to ask a question over another, and it's like, bro, that's not how you have a discussion. That's not how you have a debate.
Basic question for you. If that's the case, it keeps going back to the same thing. If it's better in other places than it is here, why are Americans and others not going there? Why are people coming here? It's very basic.
How much does a plane ticket cost?
No, they have the money to go to different places. They don't, because they know America's the greatest country in the world. They know it.
Okay.
Appreciate
Nice
you.
to meet you, by the way.
That's another subjective thing about America being the greatest country in the world. I do agree that there are a lot of people that both legally and illegally do come into the country. But if you ask like opinions, it just depends on certain circumstances. If you're asking about like opportunities for building wealth or opportunities for having a better job and a quote unquote better life in terms of safety and all of those things, yeah, a lot of people will say the United States. But then if you ask about like things like work-life balance or health or things like that, a lot of times you won't get the US. You'll probably get like a European country, kind of like Italy or Spain. I know a lot of people that are actually doing that. They're extraditing themselves from the United States and going and moving over into those European countries. And they feel like it's a better life for them because their values are more along with having that work-life balance, being able to spend time with the family and not focus so much on the money aspect, which completely understand. That is completely their thing. If that value is great for them.
A Rails
And I
developer
get
ever
more
ask
ads.
your AI agent to modify
really
a
should
user
get
model
premium.
and it has no idea about your
Hey, I'm Luke.
Luke?
Yes,
Like the
Luke.
hat. Good to meet you.
Oh, thank you very much. Good to meet you too. So I think incentives are exactly the fundamental problem with capitalism. Is that you say incentives are what make it work, and I think that's the whole issue. Is that the primary incentives are either greed, amass as much personal wealth as you possibly can.
You think that's the problem? It's greed?
Yeah, exactly. And
The problem is everybody has their own incentives. Are there people that are just incentivized by money and by greed? Absolutely. Are there people that are incentivized to make a better life for themselves and it's masked as greed just because they do obtain this money or they do work themselves to the bone to get it? Yes. But everybody has their own incentives.
Because you're not greedy at all.
And like you said, survival.
Yeah.
Right? The person working 5 jobs, that they're doing that they
Sure.
they wouldn't want to do that if they didn't need to survive. But that's such a horrible dystopian world to live in. If someone has to work 5 jobs just to survive.
How did they?
Okay, I need to know, like, is there anybody that is quite legitimately working 5 jobs? Like, is it 5 part-time jobs? Because if you're working 40 hours a week or more in one job, I doubt you have the time to actually work 4 more. Maybe 1, maybe 2, if you count like after work 1 and then something on the weekend, so 3. But 5 just sounds like it's an over-exaggeration by a lot of people.
Get there. How much of that is on their decision making? How much of that is on their doing? How much of that is on the market where they're not finding ways to improve themselves?
Most. The answer to that is most. So, like, there's a saying that I always hear about. It's like, it's not your fault if you're born poor, but it's your fault if you die poor. And a lot of that does hold a lot of weight. You can't find fault in yourself for how you grew up. Like, if you grew up in a very low income, low quote unquote class lifestyle, you can't be at fault for that. Like, you didn't ask to be born into a place like that. However, if you are in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and you have nothing to your name, that's at the point where there's really no excuses at that point. Like, we're in the easiest time, in my personal opinion, to make money or to do anything like that. There's YouTube, there's a bunch of free resources. Go to a library, get books. It's just like survival is one thing, but if you say like you have no choice in it and you have to work 5 jobs to survive, because to me that's just like ridiculous.
It doesn't matter how much onus is on the individual. We want to create a world.
Of course it is.
No. See, we want to create a world in which people don't have to earn their right to exist, to live.
We live in a country where majority of the world wants to come here. The most important citizenship.
This is the third time I've heard PBD mention this, that like everybody in the world wants to come here. Look, I need to see the data to show that that's true, but it sounds like, as much as I may be a fan of his podcast and everything, like that's the only argument he has, is that for a lot of things, it's everybody wants to come here. Is it a flex? Yes. Is it like a good talking point? Yes. But come on, this is the third person I've saw him talk to that he brings this part up.
Country is America.
Right.
People give up their lives to come here. Have you ever lived in another country before?
No, not lived, no.
Why do you think so many want to come here?
I think the people coming here are coming from gang-ridden, corruption-ridden, violence-ridden.
You think that's just all it is? You think I came from a gang-ridden in Iran? I lived there 11 years.
I think the majority of, certainly coming from South America.
Most people come here because what you're doing to me, you're sitting across from me right now.
Right.
Millions of people are going to watch this. In America, you can call me out. You can say whatever you want.
Right.
Nothing's going to happen.
Right.
You're free and safe here, right?
Sure. Freedom of speech is nothing to do with
capitalism. You can't do that in
capitalism.
Iran. Of course it is. There's a lot of elements with America. You're talking incentive. The amount of benefits America offers against other countries, it's so much higher, where somebody with big dreams, incentives, they're willing to come and say, I want to come to America, please let me in. And some come and take advantage of it. But to say
So this is something that is going to be a common thing that I'm going to mention here. Two things can be true. So I do believe that there are people that are coming into this country that are fleeing some kind of things that are going wrong in their home countries, whether it is war, whether it is violence, whether it is a really bad economy and people are struggling to survive there. And at the same time, there are people that are coming into the country to make a better life for themselves overall, because they do believe in that quote unquote American dream, that if you work for it, you can make it. Again, both things can be true. And the fact that people believe that it's one side or the other has been just completely ludicrous.
Individual that's working 3 to 5 jobs, if you do that for a season, if you do that for 2 years, if you do that for 5 years, fine. If you do that for 20, 30 years, you're doing something wrong.
But the point
goes back to my point. It's not your fault if you're born poor. It is your fault if you die poor. If it takes you 30 years and you're still finding yourself in the same place, something needed to change. But if you're in that season where you're struggling, living check to check for like 1 year up to 5 years, yeah, go do what you got to do to make it, but try to find time to like develop something to help better your life down the road.
Is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Those are the inalienable rights. We shouldn't have to earn those rights. We shouldn't have to earn the right to health care. Earn the right. No, because this is just, we just want to live, exist. We can't work our blood, sweat, and tears just to survive. That's a horrible dystopian world that we live in right now.
No, then what do you think we're here for? To just sit around and play video games? What do you think we're here for? To sit around and watch TV shows?
We're here to sit and watch cat videos?
What do you think we're put here to do?
We are here to create a prosperous community, to lift everyone up.
How do you create a prosperous community? How do you create a prosperous community? Matter of fact, for you, how have you positively impacted a community?
I guess volunteering, food banks,
volunteering, food. I appreciate you for doing that. Have you created jobs for others?
Created jobs? No, I wouldn't say so.
Why have you not?
I haven't had the ability to do so.
Do you think it's easy or do you think it's hard?
To create jobs is probably hard, yeah.
Okay, so the people that create jobs, you think they should have a little bit of incentive for having risked their life savings, spend time away their families to create jobs so somebody like you can work for that company?
Sure, but that is
the incentive.
I could tell when this video blows up in like a couple of days, everybody's going to go back to this part and think that either PBD, Patrick Bet-David, is putting this guy down, or this guy is underestimating how difficult it really is to be an employer. You need both sides, honestly, to make a prosperous country work. Like, you do need people that can give back to the community. And it doesn't matter if it's in like a high level where you're donating millions of dollars to organizations, or if it's on a one-to-one level where you're just helping one person. Like, you need all of this together in order to prosper. You can't just have one without the other, no matter what anybody thinks. That's just my personal opinion on it.
Bravo for them, but that does not give them the right to pay themselves $2 million bonuses while their workers are scraping by at like $10 an hour.
You don't get to choose how much money I choose to make. That's not your business. That's my business. If you have 4 girlfriends and I have one, is it my business to tell you can't have 4 girlfriends?
I think
if you play 7 hours of,
I think my girlfriend's going to hear that part about the 4 girlfriends and she's going to have a face.
Fortnite every day,
right?
And I don't play Fortnite at all. Should I tell you you shouldn't be able to play 7 hours of Fortnite a day?
In my view.
Hey, appreciate you.
Absolutely.
How are you? What's your name?
Zena.
Zena.
Awesome. So this claim about incentive is one that we see often promoted by capitalism enjoyers, right? Mm-hmm. And it's this idea that, profit incentives is the only thing that can make humans do things, get up out of bed every day, which has never been the case. Historically, it's not the case. Psychologically.
Historically, it's never been the case?
No.
What has been the case?
So we've seen...
What's been the incentive?
The incentive is intrinsic motivation.
Intrinsic motivation?
Of course. Have you ever heard of intrinsic motivation?
Of course I have. So you think people are going to go just do anything for no incentives?
The incentive is intrinsic, meaning passion, interest, and honing your skills.
Whether you get paid or not.
Well, the problem is that we're forcing people to, need to, work to survive.
So what's the alternative? So give me another solution, another economical system.
I don't know about forcing them to do it. Like, you can move, you can go live off the radar, something like that, and have a life where you don't have to worry about these things and you worry about fending for yourself at all times. But I get where she's coming from with this.
I'm
curious.
So the psychological theory of self-determination is widely accepted in psychology and basically explains that intrinsic motivation and passion is actually what predicts incentive. You're arguing that incentive is integral to profit-driven motivation. That's not true. Extrinsic motivation, at all times, at every single case, is going to predict less creativity, less motivation, less skill, etc. Intrinsic motivation is what causes things like technological development. Some of the greatest breakthroughs have been from people who are devoted in honing their skill.
So should they get paid for it?
I think that we shouldn't live in a system that privately owns the means of production and forces people in this position.
What college did you go to?
Okay, so this is going towards the whole socialism thing, I think, because I've heard socialism, at its core, is about that the public owns the means of production. But she's talking on one side that intrinsic motivation is what leads to the innovations, which I do believe is true. If somebody really has the passion for something, then they'll obsessively work for it to make it happen. But you can only get up to a certain point with just intrinsic motivation to get something done. But if you're looking to scale it long term into something bigger, like if you turn a lemonade stand into a whole lemonade company, that takes the intrinsic motivation to start it, but eventually you need some kind of extrinsic motivation to actually scale it. Personal opinion.
USC.
You went to USC. What did you major in?
Sociology.
Sociology. Who's your hero as a professor? Who's the professor you look up to?
This doesn't seem like a topic that's related to capitalism.
The reason why I asked this question is because somebody convinced you of that. Somebody convinced you that is the way that
psychology and studies convinced me of this fact about the human mind.
But unfortunately, to your claim, results show that the greatest economical system is capitalism that allows people to go above and beyond and solve every single issue.
I want to know that study that says that that the motivation produces more profit. I want to know. I wish they put the sources in here.
Out there. An entrepreneur who gets up, who says,
what was your claim again, mister?
I'm going to incentive. The
Incentive.
entrepreneur
What about
who
incentive?
has an incentive to go out there and build their lives, and you put
So
no
I'm
monetary
saying that this incentive that you're talking about,
Yeah.
what predicts the best incentive, the best drive, and the best
So
creativity
what do you think about
has
Elon
been proven
Musk?
by
What do you think
psychology.
about Elon Musk?
Can we respond to my claim?
This is about incentive.
All right,
though.
awesome. So you're arguing that incentive is intrinsic and tied to extrinsic motivation. What we find is that the best incentive comes from intrinsic motivation.
So a person that's passionate about solving an issue is going to build something bigger than somebody else that's not.
Yes, so someone who has a true
Yes, because they'll have the intrinsic motivation to actually get it started and to obsessively work toward it. But again, it's going to eventually take a part where extrinsic motivation eventually is going to be needed to keep it going and to scale it up further.
passion for this.
Yeah, so
exactly. So profit motivation is not the thing that's driving innovation, right?
Of course it is.
Psychology.
Of course
so
it is.
psychology proves that that's not the
if
case.
there's not,
that
if
profit's
there's-
not the
if
reason that we
there's
have
not-
the greatest inventions that we do today.
I don't know if I disagree with the fact that there's a passion behind it. Are you saying people with passion, even if there wasn't the incentive to make as much money as they would make, people would still
That's
pursue
exactly
it
what-
even with or
that's-
without money?
that's what psychology
Well,
says.
your claims are wrong because
That's not.
No, her claims are not wrong. Her claims are half right. Again, this goes back to what I say about two things can be right at the same time.
True.
whoever your psychology professor is,
It's
if
not-
you look at data and you find out how America, that's only been around for 249 years, schooled all the other countries that have been around for hundreds,
Yeah,
if
I'll
not
tell you
thousands
how.
of years
They
more,
schooled all-
they did better
they
than
sc-
others because the incentive
Because they
was
accumulated
free market
profit,
capitalism.
right, to
That's why.
1% of the population
Not
and
necessarily.
continue to produce
Nope,
on that
not
basis.
necessarily. It's
Right? We
not-
have this. Okay.
It's
so
not necessarily.
Do we want to? Do we
When-
want to respond because you can say that?
You've been
the
interrupting the entire time. So if you're saying about the 1%,
I'll be honest, they were both interrupting each other. PBD, this is probably the one where he's interrupted the most.
are the problem and they're the only ones that make money.
That's
a lot
not
of
what I
people
said.
make money. You said the profit goes to the 1%.
I'm explaining how it is that America has become the dominant power that it is now, right? What we see is that because we have this engine, right, this desire to accumulate profit, we morally justify things like going into other countries, imperializing them, colonizing them, and extracting their resources, right, to funnel our country, right? Social democracies in the Nordic countries don't do this. So yeah, they might not be the wealthiest power, but they have higher rates of education, literacy, human satisfaction, etc. Right, so it depends on what we actually value in a
Human
society.
behavior
Do we value
validates-
well-being or do we value
human
profit
behavior
accumulation?
Validates your point. If that's the case, people would move to those states. They don't. When you judge a great restaurant by the amount of people that come in, you can say the food sucks here.
Yeah,
you
so
can say the
there were
service
millions
sucks
of people
here.
that lived
but
in
everybody's
Germany.
lined up to want to come here. They're not lined up to go into
so
those
there are
countries.
He, again, is bringing up the whole thing about people are lining up to come into the country. Again, yes, you may be right, but I need more. Like, I need more of an argument than that, because that just sounds like you're using the same reason over and over in order to make a point on something.
There were
They're
millions.
just used by professors as theories.
There were
And
millions of people that also lived in Germany in the 1920s.
I lived in Germany before as well for 2 years.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video.
Okay,
Straight
sponsor
Arrow News
read.
is on a mission to
My next claim is capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than any other system.
And then an ad. Good job.
Patrick.
How are you?
I'm Gabby.
Gabby?
Yeah,
Good
nice
to meet you.
So I would argue that governments have actually lifted the most people out of poverty. If you look historically, we look at China, for instance, had the most significant poverty reduction in all of human history. They pulled 800 million people out of poverty using.
According to the World Bank data, China pulled 964 million people out of poverty from 99 to 2021. Poverty line was measured at 685 per day.
State-owned enterprises
Okay.
and state centralized planning. They did work with the capitalist system, but they did it, most of it was done through state-funded infrastructure, education, and contributing to strong literacy programs, redistributing the wealth. I think that my other argument would be that there hasn't been an opportunity for alternative systems like socialism to pull enough people out of poverty. So
Well, we're going to possibly get our test of it in New York with the mayoral race. We got a Democratic socialist that is running and will likely win. So this will be a fun little case study.
We look at examples.
There hasn't been?
There hasn't been enough opportunities for them to succeed. And so when
Why
we
do you
say,
think that is?
I think that is partly because of the U.S., and I think because capitalist forces and global market insecurities have sabotaged these attempts to do socialism. So we look at an example in Chile in the 1960s. They elected a democratic socialist, and he proposed literacy reform, wealth redistribution, land reform, and all of that was a threat, obviously, to the United States because McCarthyism was on the rise at the time. And so instead of allowing Allende to have a chance with that, the U.S. Orchestrated a CIA-backed coup to take over and to have a military dictatorship that led the country instead of Allende, who actually was having a lot of success in reducing the poverty rates before the U.S. interfered. And so I think we look at other parts of Latin America, like Venezuela, for instance, and we see the same thing. We see that the U.S. has interfered several times. With Chavez in Venezuela, he was able to reduce the poverty reduction in half in the first decade of.
Okay, poverty decreased under Chavez from 62% in 2003 to 32% in 2011. But today, under the system he created and the leadership of his handpicked successor, Venezuela's poverty rate is more than 90% due to inflation that once hit 300,000%. Most citizens can't afford a proper meal. And that's the problem in Venezuela that everybody talks about. It's just the hyperinflation that has gone on that basically ravaged the country's economy. So yeah, everything sounded good up until this little fact check right over here, because it says it was under the same system and it was by a handpicked successor. I'm not saying that, this is debunked now, but yeah, it didn't last.
Him being in office, and he was sabotaged ultimately by the U.S. and by a military dictatorship, so that the people that replaced them were actually.
So may I respond? It's
Sure.
a lot of different cases here. So
Sure.
thank you for that.
Of course.
Let's go China first. Okay, so when you say China was able to recover and because they use state-funded, nationalized systems. So in 1978, Xiaoping, the leader of China, went to Japan. He saw what was going on with Japan for 2 decades. Every year, their GDP was growing by 15%. The economy was doubling pretty much every 4 years. Sure. They go over there, they say, we got to find a way to compete with Japan. How do they have fewer people, but they're beating us? They sit down with their leaders after a few drinks. Eventually, they say, how did you fix your economy to be growing the way that it is? A capitalistic society that they had in Japan. They asked the question from Xiaoping, the Prime Minister Fukuda, asked the question, how many banks do you guys have in China? He says, we have one bank. He said, it's a nationalized bank? He says, yeah. That's it? Yeah. How many loan officers do you have? Not many. You want to compete with one bank? Yes. He says, if you want to compete with us or others, here's what you have to do. You need 5,000 banks with 35 branches, with 30 loan officers. That's a total of 5.25 million loan officers and a population of 600 million people that are living there. You do that every week. You take 10 applications with these loan officers for small business owners, and you allow the small business owner to compete. They did that. China started competing. By the way, in America in the 1920s, we had around 30,000 banks when we were really, competing in a marketplace. In the 80s, we ended up having around 14,000. Today, we only have 4,100 banks in America.
And it's kind of worse than just that, because not only do you have less banks now than what the country used to have, but it's a lot of these like smaller local banks that are the ones closing down, which leaves it concentrated to just like the big banks of the world, your Chases, your Bank of Americas, your Cities, which is no good for the average person if you don't have these like smaller local banks available, because now you're risking not having favorable loan terms or lower interest rates and things like that. So we need more banks in this country. We need specifically more localized banks, more credit unions, things like that.
That concept of allowing just one bank to compete, it's not going to work. China takes on the idea from Japan.
If I can interrupt you, I think that
they start growing with certain capitalistic philosophies.
I think you're thinking about this in very capitalist terms, which makes sense. You're a capitalist, but
because it works. That's the idea. Because it's produced the results.
You're only thinking about these scenarios in a situation where market mechanisms are in place, and this is the problem that I have with so many capitalists: is they can't exit their worldview and try to see a world where socialism could be in place because they don't understand the untapped potential of socialism.
Here's the reason why a lot of capitalists don't think that way. A lot of capitalists or a lot of people who believe in that kind of lifestyle look at the United States as a business. And if you really look at it, it's kind of run as such. Even going as high as like our political climate, you're run by essentially an executive branch as basically a CEO, legislature, which is basically COO, judicial, COO, things like that, COO, CFO, things like that. America is pretty much run like a business, which is why so many people look at it as such.
And I'm a democratic socialist. I think that we need to build forward towards that with reforms, and I think we need to work with the government. I don't think that we should abandon the state. I also don't think that we should give state elites the complete control over society. I do think that we should work with the state to instill these reforms and then eventually erode capitalism.
But unfortunately, socialism has had hundreds of
But
years
you're thinking in terms of
to
competition.
produce results, and it hasn't worked. Do you know why it doesn't work, though?
It's been sabotaged.
It's been sabotaged,
Yes.
or it's because it forces people to do something they don't want to do?
Does capitalism not do the same?
No, capitalism gives
there's
you the-
7 million people in this
capitalism
country
allows
who
you
have to work
choose.
multiple jobs just to get by.
I have to work multiple jobs.
Okay, so I guess I gotta be fair. The same way I got on Patrick Bet-David for using the same excuse over and over about so many people wanting to move into the country, I also gotta say to like these panelists that keep using the excuse that like everybody is working 4 or 5 jobs in order to make ends meet. There may be some people doing that, but I can almost guarantee you it's not a majority.
They're
season.
forced to do
Yeah.
that because either they do that or they starve. So if the options are to work or to starve, that's not freedom, that's economic coercion.
Respectfully, if you do that for a period of your life, I understand it. If you're doing that for 30 years, you're doing something wrong. You shouldn't be working multiple jobs for the rest of your life.
So first of all, I'm not going to argue with this moral argument. I think that people who live in poverty, especially when we look at how many people live in poverty in this country, and also it depends on how you define the poverty line, but there's 40 million Americans who live below the poverty line in this country.
There were 36.8 million people living in poverty in 2023, according to the census. Study in 2017 found that the 3 richest Americans have more wealth than the bottom 50% of the country. The 3 richest Americans have become far wealthier since that time. Of course, because, the pandemic kind of inflated, the wealth there, causing that K-type recovery where the rich got richer, the poor got poorer.
There's 3 guys in this country that own...
What would you say to somebody that hasn't tried therapy before?
Just ask yourself if what you're doing in your life right now.
40% of the wealth. How does that work in a country that is
You really
built
want to go
on-
there? You want
Sure.
to go there? Okay, so let's talk about it. So when we talk about the rich people at the top, okay, and you say, well, the rich don't pay enough taxes. Do you know what the bottom 50% of taxpayers in America pay towards the revenue that the government gets in taxes? Do you know what the bottom 50% pays?
Tell me.
2% of taxes. Do you know what the top 1% pays?
There's been several years.
I wish that they would actually have fact checked this because I'm interested in knowing this myself.
Do you know what the top 1%?
Nothing.
Do you know
They've been nothing.
And I should say that as someone who has paid 0 in taxes, because I made absolutely nothing at one point in my life, to paying like 12%. Now I'm like in the point where I'm paying 25-ish.
No, hang on
federal
a second.
taxes.
This is from the IRS. I'm not writing a blog from Huffington Post. This is not Daily Beast. I'm telling you the story. The top
I'll say
1%
this.
pays 42%
I'll say this, the
of all
top 1%
tax
is
revenue.
about to pay.
Okay, slight over-exaggeration. According to the Tax Foundation, the top 1% of earners paid 40% of income taxes in 2022. I'm very much wanting to know like what it is in the last like couple of years, like maybe 2024-ish.
A lot less in taxes because of the provision
They'll
that just went
actually
into
end up paying
Trump's,
even
your
more
guys'
revenue to the
big,
government.
beautiful bill.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was fast.
Hi, I'm Anne.
Anne, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So I do want to address part of the claim about poverty, but I also want to address what you brought up about like paying taxes. So you said the top 1% pays a large amount of taxes. The problem is that the bottom 2 quintiles can't pay taxes because they quite literally have no wealth. Do you
It's not by wealth, it's by income, 2 different things. But I do get where she's coming from.
understand that? Like the bottom quintile of the United States doesn't have any wealth. In fact, they're in debt, so they have literally like negative wealth.
Why do you think that is?
I think that's for a lot of reasons. I think that's because workers have been exploited. I think that they haven't had the opportunity to gain social mobility.
Why do you think that is?
Not necessarily. It's It's the fact that some people are using debt to survive. So they're using credit cards to like pay their bills, food, things like that. But then there's also a subset of people who are just chronic spenders and are purposefully putting themselves in debt as well. And then there's the people who are putting themselves in massive student loan debts to get their college degrees in fields that doesn't necessarily pay enough to justify the cost. So 3 types of people there.
Because of exploitation.
You think they're being exploited?
Yes.
Oh,
of course.
so people are being forced to work at companies. They don't have a choice.
I didn't say that they were.
So people are being.
They are being forced. If the other option is starve or die.
What job do you have right now? What do you do for a living?
I do work from home stuff. I don't want to disclose that.
So you chose to do that, right? That's your choice. Great. If somebody works at Starbucks as a barista, it's their choice. If somebody has a job that they're working, it's their choice. If somebody is not utilizing their time properly and accordingly, of course the market's not going to pay you more.
Do you think that, like, they brought up single mothers earlier. Do you think that single mothers are sitting around playing Fortnite 15 hours a day?
Unfortunately, single mothers were manipulated on what happened.
Is that a yes or no?
Single mothers were manipulated by what Lyndon Johnson came out with. They changed the benefits on giving single mothers the incentive to have kids on all the welfare program. That changed our system in a major way.
Yes and no. I have a very diverse opinion when it comes to the whole single parent, single mother type thing, because I think it's a fault on 3 parts. The first 2 involve the actual parents really choosing to have kids when you know that either the relationship's not going to be serious or you're not married yet and things like that. That is a big issue. It's 2 people who decide to lay together, end up having a kid, and they know that the relationship's not going to work. Then the third reason, which is very minor, I would say, is the government policies that basically finance single parent living. Like, hey, if you're a single parent, you have kids, you qualify for like X, Y, and Z benefits, which it also leads to a very bad stigma about the cities that actually have these type of programs. Like, I work in housing. I've worked in housing lotteries in the past. And because of the fact that there's so many programs that essentially benefits anybody who has a child, whether they're a single parent or not, it leads to this negative stigma where they think every program has it. Because I can tell you the amount of emails and amount of DMs that I get ever since I started making content around housing, where people will ask me, like, is it true that if I have a kid, I have a better chance of getting this apartment or getting this voucher? The vouchers in New York, yes, it does play a little bit of a part in expediting the process, especially if you're coming from a shelter. But housing lotteries in itself, like the actual lottery system that gives you an apartment essentially for way less than market, it does not care if you have children and you're a single parent household or not. It really only cares about how many people total, both adults and kids, and whether or not you make the income that falls in that range. A little bit of a tangent, but that's just how that part is, and I see it all the time.
The feminist movement got single mothers to believe they don't need men and they're going to do everything by themselves and they don't need a man to help them out. This division that's happened between us caused many people to be in the situation that they're at.
Most households are 50-50. They're closer to 50-50 today, so that has nothing to do with feminism.
Not
Feminism didn't just like convince women.
But you can't say that it's mostly 50-50 if you're also saying that it's like single parent households. Those two don't really go together.
Because they're too stupid to think for themselves.
Feminism was one of the worst things that happened in America because it pinned men against women.
Do you think that women are so stupid that they've been brainwashed? Okay, so you don't think that they've just fallen into this feminist propaganda? You don't think they're idiots?
No, I don't think that. But I do think people can be manipulated and brainwashed.
But they're not stupid enough to do that because the majority of people are splitting nearly towards 50-50.
There are so many people that bought into a philosophy that stole decades away from their lives. Decades away from their lives because they bought into an idea that didn't produce the results.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about capitalism is the best economical system that provides the best results for people.
But we can't just jump back and forth between claim to claim to claim. So
I wish you guys would I wish both parties would just stick to the actual claim and the actual prompt.
The claim about feminism brainwashing people into being single mothers, how does that work?
No, I didn't. I said feminists originally brainwashed women to believe men are the enemy. That led to where we are today. Last week report came in.
Single mothers?
Yes, in many cases, because they don't need men.
Do you have evidence for that?
100%.
You really think a single mother wants to be a single mother?
Absolutely, we have evidence of that.
You think the single mother making minimum wage down the road, like working for some grocery store, having to
drop the evidence
to take care of all of her children is just like, I just don't need a man. I just want to be independent.
What percentage?
I'll live in abject poverty to be independent.
What percentage of the U.S. revenue that we get in you think we use for entitlement programs? What percentage?
I don't remember the exact percentage.
What do you think the number is? So we bring in $4.9 trillion.
But it's far less than what we do in private spending.
We bring $4.9 trillion in, okay? The U.S. revenue comes in. What percentage do you think goes to entitlement programs?
I don't know.
What do you think is a reasonable number?
Well, what you're calling entitlement programs, I'm actually not sure what you mean by that.
I'm talking about Social Security. I'm talking about
so social
Section
welfare.
8. I'm talking about any of these.
It's much less than other OECD countries.
What percentage do you think it is?
I don't remember the exact percentage, but it's much less than other OECD countries.
What do you think it is? You think
we
it's 10%,
are far behind.
20%, 30%? What do you think the number is?
No, but it's relatively low compared to other OECD countries.
What do you think it is? Can you guess the number?
I don't remember the number off the top of my head. I've already said that.
68%. How much more entitlement?
68%. Can we fact check that?
In 2024, 60% of federal spending went towards entitlement, including Social Security, Medicare, federal pensions. The government spends $4.1 trillion on these programs that brought in $4.9 trillion in revenue, totaling. So, in what was this? The government spent. In 2024. So in 2024, the United States spent 83% of its revenue on entitlement programs. And this is fact checked, which is insane. The fact that just 60% period of federal spending went to entitlement programs is wild. Like think about it like this. For every $100 that you made from your job, and for every $100 actually that went out of your check to go towards the government for taxes, for every $100 in taxes that we pay, $60 of it went to programs like these. Now, I'm not going to say that's completely bad as somebody who has lived in these programs. I always say this, if it wasn't for Section 8 and food stamps, I would have never had a place to live growing up or food in my stomach. So I am grateful for that. But as an adult who, again, we all pay like significant amounts in taxes from our income, it's wild to see where most of it ends up going.
Can fact check that.
Okay.
Please do so.
Please.
68% goes to entitlement programs.
Of our federal budget?
No, of the revenue that comes in, 68%.
So the capita GDP.
Not GDP. You're confusing the two different.
No, revenue, as in like what comes out of all of our paychecks to the government.
Things here. Actual tax revenue that we get.
Okay, so tax revenue.
68%
now
of it goes
specific.
towards entitlement programs. 68%. Thank you.
This is Pod 5, the first fully immersive
I should put a counter for
sleep
how many
system.
times an ad pops up in these videos.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Grace?
Yes, Grace.
Good to meet
Hi.
you.
I want to say that I think it's pretty comical that an elite such as yourself has the goal to tell us average Americans who's in poverty and who's not. A lot of times,
I was an average American.
You're not
I was
anymore.
a guy that was in poverty.
Okay, I was waiting for this one. So this was like one of the scenes I actually did see, so I kind of know what happens here. But I really wanted to talk about this point here. She says that it's comical that as someone who was in that point in life, like poverty level, all of that, to be built to where he is now, all of a sudden he has no say in like what. Let me start that over. It's comical that somebody in his part of life where he's at now talking about what should be considered poverty. To me, that sounds like if you got yourself out of poverty or if you're not in poverty, you have no opinion on it. Well, let me tell you, again, as someone who was in poverty, someone whose family is below the poverty line, and got myself out of it, I will have an opinion on that. And I really don't care. Because that's the problem that we're having nowadays, is that nobody wants to hear the opinions of people who are at a certain part of life that a lot of people don't have access to, which in a way I kind of understand. But if it's somebody who built themselves from zero to where they're at now, I would at least have an ear out and hear what they got to say. I may not agree with it. I may not agree with all of it, but there may be something there. And I don't understand this idea that if you made it out, all of a sudden you don't know what it's like to be at this level, so your opinion doesn't matter.
You're not anymore.
And you can also change. You can also change.
Anyways,
do you believe
you're
you
talking
can change?
down. A lot of times.
No, he's not in this one.
Is that the marker for poverty is actually very low. So a lot of times, like $2 a day is the line for how they measure poverty.
$2.15, yeah.
Props to him for remaining calm while being attacked with 500 words a minute. For real.
And that's ridiculous. So if I make $5 a day, I'm not in poverty.
I can
actually
live.
I can pay the rent.
Sure.
But we're talking about this country, right? We're not talking about around the world.
But the poverty line supposedly does measure around the world. That's like the United States does have its own systems for like measuring poverty line within the country. But when they say the whole $5 a day thing, that's around the whole entire world. I'm sorry to tell you.
I've noticed that you like to do that. You like to like skirt from America and talk about other countries
to
try to make it look like we're better, but we're actually getting worse.
America's the greatest country in the world.
Anyways, it's the greatest country.
We are
at the highest that we've ever been with homelessness since we started collecting
Why
data.
Why is that? Ask you. Are you from
because
California?
we haven't had a pay rate.
I could tell you, at least in terms of New York, because New York is having a huge homeless crisis here. Some of it is mental health. I will admit that. There are some people that really do need a lot of mental health treatment. And unfortunately, that has led them to living on the streets. Some of it is drug use. And some of it is just personal choice. I would say drug use is kind of also personal choice. But then there's the people who were like maybe forced to take drugs at one point, can't kick the habit. Then there's the people who chose to be on drugs and made that their lifelong thing. So yeah, that has led to a serious homelessness crisis as well. And I know they're based in California, which from what I hear about California, it's kind of the same issues.
From
Since
California?
2009.
Do you live
Our
here?
minimum wage nationally is $7.25.
Okay.
And you wonder why we have the highest poverty rate. You think that capitalism's winning? Can you?
Let me go through this. The federal minimum wage is $7.25. The fact that it has been $7.25 for like years is insane. Like I have seen other states like raise their minimum wage. New York, we have two. I think it's like almost getting to like $20 an hour now. California, I want it to be like $20 or $25 an hour. If Mandani becomes mayor, supposedly he's going to try to make it up to $30 an hour. But the fact that $7.25 in the country, that it just has not moved. And that I can understand that something's wrong because prices has gone up throughout the entire country. So I don't understand how federal minimum wage has not, or how it's even calculated. I guess it's like the average of all the states.
So would you like to live off $7.25
I
an hour?
used to work for $4.25 at Haagen-Dazs.
Right.
Then I
and that
went
was
and
a very
worked
different
at
time.
Burger King for $4.75.
And how much do you make now?
Then I make.
Okay, how do I say this properly? I don't want to disrespect nobody. She did not come on that seat to have a debate or have a discussion. She really came to just talk a lot of smack because she just asked two questions without really even caring what the answer is. He mentioned about making $4.25 in one job, and then it was, oh, that was a different time. Okay, like, I'm sorry, time does pass. And then it was, well, how much are you making now? Which one is it? Which one do you care about? Or did you just come here on this show to sit in the panel because you heard a capitalist was going to be there and just lay out how you feel?
Millions today. Then
right,
I worked
and that's
at
why
Bob's
you like
Big
capitalism,
Boy.
because we're not all making that.
But
and
the
that's
difference
my point.
is, but
a
the difference
millionaire is
between
critiquing the people in poverty
the difference,
and saying
my
you should
whole.
Well, I can tell you, I'm not a millionaire, and I'm just critiquing what you're saying.
work harder. You should work. You know, you can be lean. We can't all be it.
My hope is.
No, not everybody can be a multi-millionaire business person, but you can carve out a decent life for yourself if you actually do the work for it. And that's me saying it.
that you believe you can change and improve, that you believe you can upgrade yourself. That's my belief.
You know what? That's what rich people like you want to keep telling us.
But
you can be just like me. Do you want to be like me? If you work hard enough,
I'm not
you can
saying
be like
that.
me. It's not very realistic.
It's actually you wouldn't be able to be like me because you
You're
wouldn't work that
talking down to
hard.
people like
Would
us.
you work that hard?
You don't. I'm not going to tell you. I don't have to answer that.
If you don't
I don't
choose
have to measure my I don't have to measure my work ethic to be worthy.
You don't have to. Then you can't be upset for others who do so. You can't
be upset for people who are struggling.
No, because they work harder than you.
And that's what's wrong with capitalism. Because
but
you
go back
think
to the
that
homelessness.
You have to work so hard.
Do you live in the state of California?
I do.
Okay, you said homelessness.
Yes.
What do you think about your Governor Newsom? What do you think about him?
I don't like him. I'm a progressive. He doesn't do enough for the people.
Do you know when he
takes corporate money.
Fantastic.
He takes money from people like
when
you.
He was,
he's not
I've never given him money. But do you know when he first became a governor, I would never give him money. But when he became a governor first, from then till today, he's raised the amount of homelessness in this state by 36,000 people.
Okay, I don't like the guy, but he's not at fault.
When Newsom took office in 2019, there were 151,278 people experiencing homelessness. 2024, there were 187,000, a record high. And that's knowing that Newsom and the California government has budgeted and spent, millions of dollars? A couple $100 million, I think it was, to try to combat homelessness. And the fact that the numbers are still going up.
Homelessness. People like you are. Billionaires like you are the
gave
problem.
him $24 billion. Taxpayers
I believe it.
gave
I don't
him
like that guy.
$24 billion, and he didn't do nothing with it.
Oh, I was wrong. I said hundreds of millions. Apparently, it was billions.
Vote him out. Vote him out.
You vote him out. You have him. It's not that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not here to defend Newsom.
You can
but
go.
But you're not much different than him. That's all I'm saying. You're in the same class.
But you're sitting here blaming a person who's changed their lives for the better. And it's their fault. My dad was.
This is not the United States of Patrick Bet David.
Do you know
this
where?
This is the United States of America.
I know, and I'm so
grateful
grateful to be here. I'm so grateful to be here.
But are you willing to pay more taxes so that other people don't suffer? Are you willing to pay more taxes so other?
Okay, being that we just saw that 60% of revenue from the country goes into programs, I'm really starting to now understand why people say raising taxes on people is just not going to be the answer, because at the end of the day, it also depends on how that money is being used. And the fact of the matter is right now, it's just not being used effectively. And putting more money into the system is just not going to help it. And
so grateful to be here.
I see you're starting the question. Not willing.
My dad was a cashier in Inglewood at a 99-cent store.
That's
we
great.
had nothing. No, I don't tell you that's great. We had nothing.
Well,
I'm the guy that had I'm the guy that had
propaganda that you guys. So you can be like me.
But what you don't want to hear is that because it's the truth.
We
Can I ask you a
all
question?
be like you.
When's the last time you read a business book? When's the last time you read a self-help book?
I don't need to answer that.
When's the last time you read a self-help?
I wrote a self-help book.
Tell me
I'm a writer.
If you wrote a self-help book, I hope somebody is not taking it word for word. I'm just gonna leave it as that.
Tell me what self-help book you read.
I'm not.
Give me
one.
Give me one you read. Are you willing to take one recommendation?
No.
You're not.
Not for me.
Then I can't help you.
That's okay. I don't need your help. I didn't come here for your help. I came here to debate.
No, you came here to complain. Literally, you came on the show to complain.
Out.
Good.
Awesome.
Jubilee, how much are you paying people, when you cast people for this show? Do you do any kind of interview process, or do you always just make sure to have one person that's just there to just be loud? There we go.
How's it going, man?
What's your name?
Armin.
Armin?
Yep, Armin Crow. When you said capitalism is the best form of economic organization the world has ever seen, it made me think of a very particular picture from history. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you know this, is a little history lesson. In 1900, King Leopold II of Belgium determined that the entire land of the Democratic Republic of the Congo was his personal property. And within 10 years, capitalists came out, they exploited all the land, extracted trillions of dollars of resources, 15 million Congolese died.
King Leopold II seized the Congo as his private property in 1885, forced residents to harvest rubber, rubber. His men murdered, raped, and mutilated villagers. The exact death toll is unknown, but estimates show the population was cut in half to 10 million. That is horrible. And yeah, that's just horrible. But at the same time, that is an example of a system where people can exploit it to satisfy their own wants and needs. Doesn't make the system bad, but again, goes back to what I said earlier in this stream. It's the people who put it into practice that are going to be the ones to determine whether or not it succeeds or not, or how it's perceived by the rest of the public after that. This is an example. Somebody used it in a very horrible way, and now the entire system has a bad rap because of this and some other historical and even modern reasons behind it.
For reference, the Holocaust killed 6 million people. And the most famous picture from that time in history is a rubber worker staring at the disembodied hands of his 8-year-old daughter because he didn't hit his rubber quota. I'm willing to bet that man worked harder to hit that rubber quota than anything you've ever worked for in your entire life. And I think when you say this is the best system that's ever been created, to me, that's the result. That's what happens when there's no rules.
It's devastating when you hear stories like that. I don't disagree with you. They had it hard. They worked very hard, and they had risk on the line. Many times it was their lives that was on the line. And you see that in many different places when you go back and study history. That's why today in America, that can't happen. In America, you have a choice to do what you want to do with your life. When we go back and look at those stories, we can go to see what communism did. How many lives were killed because of communism control? You don't need to go through that number. You hear the numbers between 60 to 100 million. We can go that route. But if you're talking about which provided the best economical system today, you judge it by how many want to go live somewhere that gives you that opportunity. And that is
back to the reasoning of a lot of people want to come to the United States.
It's America.
Do you know why kids can't work in America?
Why kids?
Because we have child labor laws.
Can't work in America?
Yeah, why there's child labor laws.
Yeah, because of child labor laws.
It was labor unions. They were getting shot at by police officers to fight for the weekend, to fight for the 40-hour work week.
Yeah.
Another good example is the 1908 mill children's strike. It was thousands of kids who were working 80-hour work weeks striking so they would only have to work 50 a week. That's what happens when there's no rules, right? And then the government had to come in and say, you can't employ children. So I think capitalism
We don't
itself,
disagree here with that. I don't think we're sitting here talking about child labor. Are you hearing me talking about capitalism is the best system because it provides child labor in America?
I'm saying that capitalism, there's no guardrails inherently. The government has to come in. People have to go and organize. And I think what you've seen for the past 50 years under neoliberal politics is that's slowly being chipped away. All of the good things of the New Deal, like Social Security, the 40-hour work week.
I do think you need law and order, but also at times, you know, the amount of rules you put in place can prevent incentives. Right now, if you think about drones, warfare is changing, okay? And 70 to 80% of all drones that are being built today are being built by a company called DJI in China. Ukraine was building 1,000 drones a day at $500 and going and hitting $5 million equipment of Russia, destroying them. 68% of their attacks was from drones. When you come to America, look at us, we're at 1 to 2% at the top. Let me explain my point to you here. Part of it is over-regulation. Over-regulation, FAA laws, this laws, that law. So 500 startups that got into the drone business, they walked away because it's over-regulation. Many cases, when you say, I want to put this rule in place, great. Another person, no, I want to go this much. No, I want to go this much. No, I want to go this much. It eventually gets to the point that it chokes the innovator, and that's also not good.
I would disagree. I think regulation is the reason why there's no lead in our gas. You were talking about
some regulation is a good thing because we do need certain things to be protected, but there are over-regulations as well. I can only really think of one example, which is like home building. Depending on what state you're in, some places in Texas, you can build pretty easily. That's why they're able to actually build more homes than something like New York or California, which has so many permit laws that you have to go through, getting permits and things like that, how do I say this? There's so many regulations when it comes to home building in states like California and New York compared to somewhere like Texas. And that's where you get to the issues of like consequences from all of these regulations. That's one of the reasons why we have such a housing crisis overall. It's like the states that don't have as much regulation and lets home builders build do way more in terms of volume than the states that have so much regulation that it takes you years just to get approval just to do one house.
Incentives, the only incentive that really matters to a good capitalist is profit. It is profitable to put lead in the gas, and it doesn't matter if it lowers the IQs of kids living nearby by 15 points.
Someone's unfortunately...
And here's the thing. It's profitable to put lead in the gas. Let's just say yes, in terms of this little bad example. You know what's the real purveyor, whether a business succeeds or not? Lifetime value of a customer. Like, how much is that customer going to spend throughout his or her lifetime? That's why you see companies like Apple and Coca-Cola do so well over multiple decades, is because the same one person will buy multiple iPhones, multiple iPads, multiple bottles of Coca-Cola throughout the course of their life. If you're doing something to kind of cut corners just to build a profit in the short term, like putting lead in the water, well, all of a sudden you're cutting the life of your customer, which means over the long term, you're not actually profiting as much as what you could from that person. That was a long-winded answer, but yeah.
Someone's convinced you at a young age that these capitalists are bad people.
Well, then,
that they're
why
terrible
were they fighting
human
against?
beings.
Why were they fighting against taking lead out of their gas?
Think about it this way. You know, the main thing. I don't know if you know Michael Burry's. You ever seen the movie Big Short?
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the movie where it says Michael Burry now is focused on water because he thinks water is the future gold or whatever he calls it. Right?
Sure.
Okay. Go to the company that's Coca-Cola. That sells Coke, and how much criticism have you had over the years with Coke, right?
Oh, I think Nestle's had a lot of criticism because they don't think water is a human right for the...
That's a different conversation. If I may finish the point, one
I
thing
want
with
to go through that
Coca-Cola is the following.
conversation.
Do you know even Coke got to a point that they realized in order for Coca-Cola to be around 50 years from now, 100 years from now, they went and invested billions of dollars to fix the water issue around the world. They're trying to get cleaner water. Capitalists eventually get forced to take care of the person because having lead in the water is just not a good policy long term.
Your Rails monolith has 50 models.
I'll go through this commercial, this ad in a bit, but it goes back to what I said. They're investing so much in water to essentially extend the life of the customer so that way they can retain that customer for longer periods.
A dozen concerns and complex service.
Okay.
Surrounded is now a podcast, available wherever you listen. Search Surrounded, plug.
My next claim is if all the money in the world were divided equally, it would return to the same pockets within 5 years.
Okay, so this is actually a prompt that I know about because I do listen to his podcast. The whole idea of this is that if you were to take all of the wealth in the United States, like let's just say the government decided, hey, we're going to drain all of your bank accounts and we're going to take the total amount and we're going to split this equally amongst everybody in the country. So everybody has the ultimate fair share. What this prompt basically means is that within the next 5 years after doing that, the money just goes back to the same people who are at the top. And it's not because of corruption. It's not because of some undermaking dealings. It's really because the people at the top have certain things, whether it is a certain skill set or connections or things of that nature, to try to build something to essentially get that money back. Like, I know for a fact that if you took the CEOs of some of the biggest companies ever and you were to do this experiment, yeah, they probably would build something to like eventually get that money back because they have all of this skill set and experience of knowing how to run a company in the big picture. For the bottom, you know, people like how I grew up, it would be more of a lottery effect. Which, when I say lottery effect, I mean like if you ever found yourself with a vast amount of money in one time, essentially out of nowhere, you won't know what to do with it. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the kind of money management skill set down yet, even though there's a lot of free resources out here, whether it's YouTube or podcasts or anything like that. So what a lot of people would do in that case is that they would just take that money and spend it willy-nilly. Like if you've ever seen the shows, like about people who won like the Mega Millions or the jackpot, and they just go spend crazy amounts of money buying multiple houses, multiple cars, ATVs, boats, things like that. Eventually they go broke because they don't know how to manage that money that they got at one time. And unfortunately, that would be the majority of people had this experiment actually gone through. But let's just see what people say about it here.
What's your name? Caleb.
Yeah, so you just said that you are proposing if we divided all the wealth equally in like 5 years. How would you propose we divide the wealth in that?
It's a hypothetical. There's no way to explain the how to this unless like somehow the government got the authority to just drain everybody's bank accounts.
Wait, in this thought experiment, again, if we're going to give it a serious look, I want to understand, how would you propose that happen?
I hope you realize this is just a question we're asking everybody, right? But if you take all the wealth, which is around $500 trillion, okay, give or take, you divide it by 8 billion people, it would be around $62,500 each.
According to UBS, I think that's like United Bank of Scotland, I think. Anyways, global personal wealth hit $471 trillion in 2024. According to the World Bank, the population is 8.14 billion. That comes out to about $58,150 per person. So that means in this experiment, you wake up tomorrow and you have $58,150 in your account. And then what would people do in that case?
Within 5 years, the people that don't know how to handle money themselves, they would lose it all. And within 5 years, the same wealthy would get the same amount of money.
As someone who certainly doesn't make that much money, I'm willing to take that as a gamble just for fun.
Right,
I'll be honest. But at the same time, like, okay, so you're just now claiming that people who don't have wealth don't know how to manage it.
I can almost tell you, not necessarily people who don't have wealth. It's just people who either never grew up learning about money management or people who refuse to learn money management, don't know how to handle money.
And that's fair because a lot of them have never had it before. So what do we do to basically ensure that people like myself who are currently, thank you to the United States, thank you to the state of California for giving me medical insurance to get blood work, for giving me food stamps so I can have food. I've applied to, I don't know how many hundreds of jobs. I can show you the receipts. I can show you the email confirmations. Like, I am trying my best to use my values with the freedom that we have
So
here.
if I give you a job, you would work 40 hours a week?
If the job is in alignment with something that's noble and good, I think I could. The issue is, and again, you may say that this is a personal weakness, but like right now, substitute teaching, tutoring, trying to help in that way is making it so that I'm able to scratch by.
Yeah.
But without the supplemental income and the help from the society of people who make more money,
let's,
I'm going to not have enough
if I
food.
May, I want to address something which you made a point that I agree with on why don't some people create wealth. In my family, when I was growing up, and I was telling this young lady over here, when my dad was a cashier at a 99-cent store, we've never owned an insurance policy before. My parents, we've never owned a house before. I've never lived in an apartment with a swimming pool before. We've never had a 401k stock mutual fund.
I never had most of that either.
None of that stuff. I had no clue how money worked. So for me, when I got out of the Army with a 1.8 GPA, out of high school, I went straight to the Army because I didn't know how money works. If you look at our system today, in high school, we learn about a lot of different things. They don't teach us about taxes, finances, mutual funds, stocks, bonds. Colleges don't even teach a lot of that right now. So you come out.
High school?
He's absolutely right when it comes to that. This is the one issue I have with the education system in the United States, or at least the one that I talk about publicly, is the fact that we don't have a personal finance class in our elementary or middle schools or high schools. I can tell you from my experience, I did not experience a personal finance course or class until year 3 of college. And that's coming from me who was a minor in personal finance. Most of my money management skills that I've learned came from audiobooks and podcasts. Like, I remember listening to the Dave Ramsey show when I was an office cleaner. So I'd be like scrubbing the floors while listening. I've read pretty much every book that I could think of, from Young, Fabulous, and Broke to I Will Teach You to Be Rich to The Psychology of Money, so on and so forth. There's resources for people to learn how to manage money, but the number one resource I think we need to implement it in is in schools.
So I said to him, "No, Nigel, not without the brie."
Did I work at a high school?
Have you have experience like me, someone who's essentially on those front lines working in?
I've worked with many high school teachers and the directors of psychology to talk to the youth. Yes,
so
I have.
Right now, I'm in a position where I have options, like you said. I do have some options, but they seem to be somewhat destructive and exploitative of me, of my peers. So I'm trying to
I think you're too
discriminate.
selective for jobs right now. You don't have the ability to be selective at this stage.
Well, but the thing is,
really
I do, because
some...
I'm instilled with a freedom that is maybe God universe given, and I don't actually have to, because
you can have the freedom to be selective about your jobs. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can't necessarily talk out of both sides and say, I want the freedom to be selective with the type of job I take, but at the same time, I'm applying to all these places and not hearing back. Like, jobs, at the end of the day, it is a numbers game that also depends on like your experience and skill set. And if you're being selective, then that's just way less jobs that can even consider you in this point.
of the system, like you said, I don't have to play along with some corrupt game. So I gave up
I think California
a career.
is perfect for someone like you.
Well, thankfully,
Yeah,
California
I think it is.
agrees. But
Yep.
you mentioned earlier in a previous discussion that we have free speech, we can say what we want.
Right.
But the thing is, have you been punched on the train for how you look and how you share your ideas?
Do I look like an American to you? Do you see this nose?
No, I'm just...
I can tell you as a New Yorker, I've never personally been punched in the face in a train. I have been stared down at. I have been threatened. I have been pressed by people on the trains numerous times. But I guess when you're from New York, you get used to things like that. I wanted to know where that point was coming from, or like where he was going with that.
I'm Middle Eastern. You know what's happened to this guy? You know what's happened to me when I was discriminated all over the place?
So do you really feel like that's free speech if you're being
but I don't mind
punished
it.
by people who have prejudice against you?
I don't mind it because I understand there is risk that you may be disrespected. They're like here, I've been disrespected here many times. I've been offended here many times. A lot of you are coming here finding a way to attack me and tell different stories. I'm okay with that.
I don't want to attack you.
You're being very respectful. I'm not talking about you. But what I'm saying to you is, when you say, have you ever been punched in the face on a bus? You don't want to hear about what things has happened to me because of the way I look.
Because I feel
but
like
I don't want to use
you've
that.
been through a lot of trauma in your life, and now you're kind of clinging to things.
I'm not. What I don't want to do that. I have my son is sitting right here, my 13-year-old son, my 4-year. I have 4 kids. I bring them everywhere. I want them to see that it's okay. People are going to disagree with you. You have to be comfortable with this.
All the time.
You are with 13-year-olds all the time?
Because of my job, because I'm a substitute teacher and a tutor. The thing is, you can imply many different things, and that is your right. But what I'm saying is right now, I care deeply about having a good experience. The incentive that I feel is for peace and prosperity.
I respect it.
And again, I'm using my freedom now, but the issue is you're saying we have all these options, but whenever I tour the globe, I see franchises that have monopolized pretty much everywhere.
Sure.
So when you talk about options, it's really, there's these select few people who have this infrastructure that's really benefiting them more than others, and without some sort of conscious, spiritual, moral awakening, what can we do except for beg and appeal and amass?
No, you can't be too selective. At the beginning,
again,
when I worked at Haagen-Dazs, I couldn't be too selective for a job.
I can't whenever I can.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You can
Appreciate
be
you for being
selective.
respectful.
You can be selective, but depending, again, on what point of life you're possibly in, you really probably for at least a season of your life don't want to be that selective. I can say that I am well worth X amount of money. Like, let's say I want to make this amount of money and that's what I'm not going to settle for below that. Bruh, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I swept floors. I scooped ice cream. I became a delivery person for Uber Eats and Grubhub. Sometimes for a season in your life, if you are at a certain point where you feel like you're struggling, you got to be willing to do what you got to do. Because you know at the end of the day, it's only going to be temporary.
I'm glad y'all tripped over each other because I did too. How's it going? James.
What's your name? James.
So one of the things that you have stated is that we have options. Okay. So just to give you a little bit of my background, I come from a divorced family, and we lived below the poverty level from the time that I was born until now, frankly. So I'm one of those people that you're talking about that isn't pulling themselves up by their bootstraps enough, which, like, I didn't have boots to begin with, and, like, I don't know if you've ever had boots, but, like, legs are load-bearing structures.
I relate.
And, like, you can't really pull up a boot when you're wearing it, you know? So where exactly am I failing when I am working 80 hours a week? I am taking the only jobs that will hire me. I have put in 477 applications over the last 2.5 years. Not even gotten a call back once.
Why do you think?
You tell me. You're a job.
If you're okay, I know this job market is tough, and I know we're probably in a situation where, like, thousands, millions of people are putting in multiple applications, multiple jobs, and not hearing back. If you're honestly doing 400 applications and you're not even getting a call back for an interview, something is wrong with either the types of jobs you're applying for, the area that you're currently applying in, or something's really wrong with your resume. Because I personally would not be able to believe that you went through that many applications and didn't at least get a first interview or at least some kind of contact at all.
Creator?
But I don't know your resume. You know your life better than I do. Why do you think you have not gotten a call back on 477?
Because I do not have a degree.
Okay.
Because I do not have a degree because I could not afford one.
Okay.
I live in an area where the physical job market is very limiting.
Where do you live?
I live in rural Texas.
Okay.
So in that, like in the town that I grew up in, for instance, there are 8 jobs, period.
Does your family live there? Mom, dad, everybody's in that same city?
Everybody was at one point.
Okay.
Most of them are dead now.
Okay, sorry.
Not going to say simple answer, but one of the answers you should really consider is relocating then. If you don't have anything that is tethering you to a certain location and the job market there is very limiting, like you said, 8 jobs in his part of rural Texas, yeah, I would consider moving.
Here.
It is what it is. It's poverty. You know, we're kind of used to that on this side.
Why do you feel like you're a victim? Why do you feel like you're a victim? Why do you feel like the way you speak, like, you know, you're the victim where all this happened to you?
Because I exist and things happen to you, and as such, things happen, and that's why I say that they happen to me.
You're a good-looking guy. Why do you think you're a victim? Why do you think you're somebody that's got into a situation because it's not fair what happened to me? Let me give you a couple options.
Sure.
Are you open to leaving the city you're in?
I've already left it.
So what city?
I've left multiple cities.
So if somebody else gave you a job in a different place, you'd be
100%.
willing to move there?
100%.
Okay. On your resume,
It says that.
What do you have on your resume? Skill set. What do you offer?
Transportation expertise, logistics expertise.
You consider yourself a hard worker?
I mean, I feel like 80 hours a week.
That's a hard worker.
Sure.
How about we do this? How about I interview you and I give you a job? Would you move to Fort Lauderdale?
Ooh, man, that's Florida. Sure, why not?
Would you move to Fort Lauderdale?
Sure, why not?
How about you and I document this? After this, you come, I do an interview with you, and I give you a job. And let's see what you do 90 days later.
Okay, and I'll look up your company and all that kind of stuff, and I'll see it.
But you see what just happened
regardless,
right there?
I'm going to tell you at least my opinion as someone who has done numerous job interviews on both sides now, because in my job I would like interview upcoming agents from the team and whatever. The way he scoffed, the way he spoke about it, I don't care who the person is. I don't care if I don't like the way they look. I don't like the way that they talk, what they say. If I am applying to 400 jobs in 2 years and not getting a call back, and somebody says, hey, I'm willing to sit down with you for an interview, something that I did not get up until this point with any of the other 400 jobs that I applied for, yeah, I'm taking the interview, especially like, even if I don't get the job or I don't take the job, at least you have the person in front of you to like basically say, hey, this is the vibe that I got from the actual interview. This is what you could possibly do to improve on it. It's just like I said with the last person, like nobody really wants to take advice or like hear out any opinions from somebody who is at the financial level of like a multimillionaire, billionaire person, even if in the long run it actually helps you, because then you would at least have the points that you could be like, all right, I can prove this, this, and that, and I could probably get something else. It's unbelievable the way some people actually like act when they have an opportunity, and that's the problem. Like, you try so hard to get an opportunity and it doesn't come, but then when there's an opportunity right in front of you, you look down on it. Not saying it about the idea of him saying like, hey, I'm gonna go look up your company, but it's more of the sure, oh well, it's Florida, but yeah, like the nonchalant way he said it.
What you just did.
Sure.
You just said you applied to 477 companies who's not gone back to you.
Yeah.
A business owner who's hiring aggressively just made an offer to you. You said you're willing to move. Then you said, I'll look at it. You became selective.
I didn't say I'll look at it if you'd let me finish my sentence.
Go ahead. I want to hear it.
I would like to look into your company to see exactly what you guys do.
You would like to?
Because I don't know what you guys do.
Okay.
So as far as I'm concerned,
fair.
I may be wasting my time going. If you guys are a finance company, if you guys are a bank or something like that, I don't have the certifications, I don't have the degrees. So even interviewing me would be a moot point.
What if I gave you a job, period, to work 80 hours a week? Would you take it? And I paid you a reasonable wage.
Are we talking a livable wage or a reasonable wage?
What do you
and
make
whose
right
version
now?
of reasonable are we
What do you
talking
make
about?
right
Your
now?
version of reasonable or my version of
But
reasonable?
you see, so now for me, what I'm noticing from you is
I need specifics?
No, not necessarily. No, most of the people.
I'll tell you, as someone who's like in a leadership role for a team, I would not be able to hire somebody like this, or even my higher ups won't be able to hire somebody like this, because the way you're coming off, at least in this respect, is not somebody that can handle like being in a team environment or in a corporate environment. Not to say like the personality is off, but it's just the way you are talking to somebody that is possibly giving you an opportunity for employment. That tells me a lot about how you would talk about in that kind of setting once you're already hired.
I hired need specifics. The difference is I'm trying to hire them. In this instance, you're trying to get a job and you're being selective. It's going to work against you.
I mean, I'm not trying to get a job. Originally, I was trying to ask you where the moral
My offer's off the table
okay, that's
because
fine.
you're going to be difficult to work with.
Okay, sure. But my question was, where is my moral failing? Like, where is it that you are saying?
You just displayed your not moral failing, but like, I'm starting to understand the reasons why you applied to 400 something jobs and probably never heard back. Or at least that's probably something in your resume. Like if you went to a first interview and said that you never heard back after that, I would say it's the way he's coming off when speaking to somebody.
That I am not working hard enough and I am not doing enough.
I just experienced it right now because the way you just handled this situation.
Got it.
Here
so I should accept anything that somebody gives me at first blush if it is a guaranteed thing.
No, not necessarily.
I agreed to do your interview. I agreed to be interviewed by you, and you agreed to consider me for hiring.
Yeah.
So therefore, I am taking that opportunity. I've chosen to. But because I am asking you for specifics, your immediate reaction is that, oh, well, you're trying to be picky. I'm not. I'm asking
specifics. You could have said
problematic, probably not good in group work. That's what I'm saying. Like if you're in like a group, like a team, like one of the biggest things about being in a team is the ability to communicate and collaborate with each other. I'm in a team of 5-6 people right now, and that's the ultimate thing like I have to constantly work on is how I communicate with the rest of my team. And if I was coming off like this, number one, I'd probably get a disciplinary hearing instantly because my team just doesn't play that. And two, that just does not work in a collaborative type of environment. Now, if you're working solo, like, you know, your work lives and dies with how you produce on your own, that might be a completely different story. There are people who work in like independent mechanics or people in tech that work by themselves or for themselves. Like those, you can get away with stuff like this because how you work is only up to you. But if you're working with other people, this definitely does not work.
I said I need to look up your company. That's all I said.
All you could have said is, I'm willing to have the interview.
And I did.
You would have had the interview.
And I did.
No, you said it depends.
I said,
I don't
yeah,
know.
sure.
Let me look.
Yeah,
Let me do
sure.
all
I
this
would
other
look
stuff.
into your company. That's all I said.
I appreciate you. Thank you, James.
Can you believe they moved here with nothing but their media?
And then James led right to a commercial.
Hans made it.
Hi.
What's your
I'm
name?
Faye.
Faye?
Yeah.
Good to
nice
meet you.
So how would you define socialism? Because I think you're kind of misunderstanding what anti-capitalist ideals look like.
Notice how the last couple of minutes we've been here, and nobody has stuck to the prompt ever since the first guy.
I think we are just trying to advocate for basic rights for our people in this country and across the world, of course. But I don't think it's necessarily about equal wealth disparity around the world. For most people that are anti-capitalist, I think it's more about just standard rights that are provided by the government.
Standard rights that are provided by the government.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So
go a little bit deeper. So for you, when the claim here is, if the money in the world were divided equally,
so
it will
I
return
think
to the same pockets within 5 years. Do you disagree?
yes.
Tell me why you disagree.
Yeah, so I disagree because I don't even think many people are trying to argue for that.
People are not trying
So
to
like
argue
who are
for
you
that?
arguing in this
Yeah,
debate?
what I'm trying
There's
to say...
like a very select amount of people that are trying to argue for equal wealth disparity.
Yeah.
Most people are at least trying to at least advocate for wealth and at all for people that don't have access to healthcare right now, that don't have access to a good education right now, that don't have access to their basic needs like food.
Do you think our system right now allows people to stay in those situations long term?
They force them to stay in those situations long term.
Okay, so part of me actually agrees with you, but why do you think they force them to stay in those situations long term?
I think because they are trying to convince the working class that they don't have rights.
I actually don't think that's what it is, although that's fair to your point here. What's the chances that any of you here voted for Donald Trump in 2024? Exactly.
Very
right?
low.
What is the chances that all of you here can't stand the phrase MAGA, Donald Trump, any of that stuff? Is that a fair assessment? Fair. Okay.
Yeah, so it's your
So
point.
think about it this way. So maybe you're right that the Democratic Party that's been earning your vote for a long time wants to keep you there because they'll have your vote for the rest of your life.
They have never earned my
Who
vote.
did you vote for in 2024?
In 24, I voted for the socialist candidate.
Who was that?
Claudia de la Cruz, I believe.
Who did you vote for in 2020?
I was actually not able to vote. I was in a hospital.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yes,
Sorry to
because
hear.
of results of capitalism.
Tell me more.
Yeah, so I didn't have access to proper health care or even access to a proper job that would sustain me as a disabled person.
Are you comfortable being specific on what happened?
I
You
guess
don't have to
so.
if you're not
I mean,
comfortable
I'm
with it.
also mentally ill, so that was something I had to deal with. But
We kind of all are in some way. Thank you, COVID.
I'm mainly mentally ill because I am disabled in a capitalist country.
Tell me more about mentally ill. Who qualified you as somebody that's mentally ill?
Me and my doctor team.
Who convinced you that you're mentally ill?
Me and my doctor team.
What's the specific category of mental illness? Is there one? You know why I asked this question? Let me explain to you why I asked this question.
So I don't even like the psychological industry. I don't really stand for like Sigmund Freudian.
I'm just hoping they don't break HIPAA by like exposing like what she's actually going through medically.
Politics or
Sure.
anything like that. So
unless she says it.
if you're going to debate the ethics of psychology.
I'm not. Where I'm going with this is going back to the same thing with if the money were to divide it equally, it'll end up being where it's at within 5 years. My trouble is, in many cases, somebody you and I look up to will say something to us that we choose to believe for the rest of our lives. Unfortunately, it could be something where you have ADHD, you're mentally ill, you're poor, you're this, you're that, and we get to choose to buy into that or not. And if you do...
So you're saying I'm not mentally ill or I'm not disabled?
saying you are or you're not. I would challenge it to go a little bit deeper to see if there's anything you can do about it.
Or, I mean, she said she couldn't afford it, but see a doctor, verify that.
So you're asking me about my health. You're asking me about my disability.
I'm not.
And my...
I will say we are in a market where, stay with me here, there is a market where there's profit to convince you to you have issues to take the medication because they're making money.
Yeah, but I don't... Yes, big pharma. Going back to what I said in the beginning, as much as I may believe in capitalism as a whole, I still think the medical industry is very, very predatory, especially the pharmaceuticals.
not
access to
supportive
the
of
medication. I don't have access to even a result or a solution to my disability as someone with a connective tissue disorder. It's genetic.
Have you been able to go to different doctors and get yourself tested? And
Yeah.
See? You have?
Yes.
And in California?
Yes, but not
And
enough.
who paid
I can't
for it?
find a specialist.
You can't find a specialist?
I can't find a specialist
Is there
for who I
anyone in your
am.
life that's
I
willing to
can't
pay
find
for a
anyone.
specialist?
Well, they could they would if they had
Anybody
money,
in
but
your
yeah.
Would you be okay if I pay for a specialist for you to go see?
Yeah.
Would you take money from a capitalist to help you go see specialist?
I mean, yeah, sure, why not?
I'm going to have you go see two. Where do you live in California?
Yeah.
I'm going to have you go see two specialists. But would you also be open to seeing somebody else I choose as a psychologist that may...
No.
You're not.
No.
So you simply...
choose as a psychologist. You're choosing who gets to determine what my mental health looks like. No.
So let me get this straight. She's okay taking money to go see two specialists or go see a specialist, but she's not okay with the person whom she is taking the money from dictating the specialist. Now, in a way, you can kind of compare this to health insurance, because health insurance companies essentially, quote unquote, pay for a lot of our medical expenses. In exchange, they get to choose more or less who we go see. It's kind of the same thing, and it depends on what you think of the health insurance industry. I think that's another one that really needs a revamp, but I can kind of see both sides of it. Like, as a person, if I'm giving you money and paying all of that for a medical expert or anything like that, like, I want to be sure that this person actually knows their stuff and not just going to some willy-nilly person down the road.
No.
Okay, then I wish you nothing but the best.
Yeah, so I think... All right, thanks for talking.
Thank you so much. Yes, anytime.
How you doing, man?
What's your name?
Seth.
Seth, good to meet you.
I think your claim kind of doesn't make any sense because it would not inherently be a capitalist society you're describing. Because I'm surprised nobody's really addressed this issue. We haven't even defined what socialism is. Capitalism is a system in which all businesses are funded by millionaires and billionaires, investor classes. If this society, everybody had the same amount of money, I don't really know how the money would be generated up and down. I don't know in this theoretical. It sounds more like an anarchist society, which would make more sense.
You know, we're using this as a hypothetical.
Yeah, so
right? I want to make sure I qualify
My
that
point
we're not.
being, we haven't even described what capitalism is.
But stay on this point here because you came here. Let me go back to this one. If all the money in the world divided equally, it would return to the same pockets within 5 years. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I disagree.
Tell me why you
I
disagree.
believe in a system more akin to that kind of system. I think that a system with people with more wealth and equality.
But do you know why the wealth would go back to the same people and the same people at the bottom would be poor? Why do you think it would?
Well, it wouldn't go back to the same thing or places because I don't think that we have an inherent equal starting point in the beginning.
Yeah, but this is a starting point. What I'm saying to you is if we right now did a case study.
It wouldn't go to the same places because we have never even tested some sort of free market. We've never seen any sort of system akin to that. A genuine free market, not one that's distorted by capitalists, by business owners. Capitalists generally protect their own class. That's why people rise to the top. Yes,
I don't know about that. I actually think it's a very competitive place to be.
No, there's not at all. People start at the very bottom. They have no shot to even...
Do you know why I make the claim of if all the money in the world were divided equally would return to the same pockets within 5 years?
I'm assuming that you think that because people work harder or something like that. But I would argue the people that work the hardest are the people that make the least amount of money. The people that work the least, live on their yachts, are the ones that are owning all this company. They've never been inside the businesses that they own.
I don't know if I agree with that. I was just in Arkansas 3 days ago.
The richest people.
I was just in Arkansas a week ago, and I went to a city called Hot Springs, Arkansas. It was two friends from high school started a windows company. 250 employees.
Yeah.
The city loves them. They work their tails off.
I'm not really referring to small businesses.
But I'm talking about. But many big businesses started small. Walmart wasn't big day one. Walmart was small when it first got started.
Why are they still a monopoly? Because they exist off
They're not a monopoly. Amazon is taking a big share away from them.
Oligopoly, whatever. They own a large market share because their ability to use their money to lobby.
Do you know how many jobs they've created around the world, Walmart has?
I'm not even referring to
3 million
Walmart.
jobs worldwide.
The point being is capitalists distort the market so it's...
A little bit of an over-exaggeration. Walmart says it has approximately 2.1 million employees worldwide.
Unfree. How could it be a free market if everybody in the market inherently wants to make it unfree because they want to rise to the top?
I'm watching you.
Everybody has the incentive to maintain a free market, then that's something that...
So let me go back. The reason why I said if all the money in the world were divided equally, it would return to the same pockets within 5 years.
Which, once again, nobody has stuck with this prompt. Like, outside of the first person when this prompt was first uncovered, nobody has stuck with this. Like,
to me, it's because of market value, what value you bring to the place, your contacts, your relationship, how hard you're working. Sure. All of those combines. Habits that you have in place, habits that you have in place, and also habits at the bottom. The habits at the bottom are not long-term thinking, it's short-term. When I didn't have any money and I was broke $49,000, if I had $500 to my name, we're driving on the freeway to go to Vegas to party for the weekend and come back.
Yeah, and that's the thing that a lot of people do, like when they don't have like certain goals or anything like that, and they get a little bit of money, they'll blow it. If they have no money, they're still going to find a way to have a good time because their values are not towards certain goals. Their values is to just live their life like that.
If I had a penny to my name, I'm having a blast. Until 25 years old, I changed my habits financially. Then things changed. But this point here that we're talking about with the wealth...
Some people are so far off from that point, they're so far in debt that small decisions would not alter...
It's not true.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not true.
You're...
Okay, but you have to factor in how... Like, if you're mentioning the fact of how much in debt some people are, you have to put in the perspective, like, what kind of debt they're in and how did they get in that debt. Like, medical debt is one thing. Medical debt basically means that something happened and you had to go into debt to get that treatment that you needed. That's one thing. But if you're doing like hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt, tens of thousands of dollars in car debt, another couple $1,000s in personal debt, tons of debt in credit cards, like a lot of those are personal choices. So if you're like in tons of debt and most of it is because of your own personal choices, why should anybody honestly feel bad?
Just privileged and you've lived in a certain
you think
example.
I'm privileged.
I'm privileged. You're privileged to become a millionaire because of your hard work. That's amazing. That's
my
the only
mom
person.
ran out of money and went back to Iran. You're talking to a guy that would have done 20 years in the army. If one guy doesn't call me, if one guy would have called me
the army is the government funding you.
I understand that, and I joined the army because I had given up on life.
Social programs.
No, I had
absolutely.
I was not.
The difference between being in the military and many social programs is the fact that when you're in the military, you're still working for those benefits that you're getting, for the benefits that you're getting. A lot of the social programs, you don't need to actually do much of anything. Like, again, growing up on Section 8, the only thing we had to do was just recertify every year or every 2 years, depending on what the lease was. We didn't really have to do much other than that.
Confident on what I could do, but I changed. So can you. Look at the way you're speaking to me.
You can change, you can work hard, but
do you know somebody like you? Do you know somebody like you that speaks this eloquently? If somebody gets a hold of you in real estate, insurance, finance, you can learn how to sell. And you can make some real good money. Somebody like you that I'm watching.
Not everybody's born with those abilities. You have to be like somebody who's white, tall, 6'4", whatever. They're
I'm
much
Middle
more
Eastern. I'm from Iran. Do you realize a lot of stuff that goes against me?
Okay, but many people have no choice to
but
physically
that's an
alter.
Excuse language to be making. No. That's not a language.
If you never have the opportunity to compete because you're pre-designed.
I appreciate you being respectful. Truly, you need to know that. So I'll be respectful to everybody.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate you for being respectful. Right now, everybody that's here, me changing your mind, it's not a very high likelihood, okay? The audience that's watching, 40% of them are going to agree with what you say, what you say, what you say, what you say, and they hate me. 40% of the audience is going to agree with me. 20% of the audience is in the middle saying, I don't know, man, what do you think I should do? Should I feel like a victim or should I not make excuses? Or what is that guy saying? Or should I do this? Or should I sympathize? The 20% that's watching this, that has a fighting chance, I'm hoping.
I love watching people's reactions to these videos. Like, the fact that you're looking at the rest of the panels and they're just like, all right, whatever, that's unfortunately a bigger issue that we're dealing with. And it's not just, oh, well, nobody's listening to the millionaire. It's the fact that nobody wants to listen to somebody whose beliefs differ from their own. Like, I notice that we are very open to listening to people when we agree with what they say. And politics aside, that's just everyday conversations, whether it's like friends, family, coworkers, anything like that. If somebody is on the same belief systems that you're in, you're more open to listening to them, whether compared to somebody whose views differ from yours. And we've seen that a lot.
They realize they can do something about their lives. We're not going to be able to solve 100% of people's problems, unfortunately.
I don't think people should keel over, but that doesn't mean most people have an equal competitive advantage to some.
I think everybody has a certain gift to offer.
Somebody like me is more privileged inherently.
I think everybody, listening to her present, she could be a lawyer. Listening to her present, she's got fire in her belly. Everybody here has got a gift. Every single person here has got a gift. Whether they choose to use it in a way to help them advance in life, that's not my fault.
Not everybody
that's on
can
them.
afford to increase their market value.
You can.
No,
you actually
not
can.
everybody.
Well, we respectfully disagree.
I appreciate you.
Thank you again. Appreciate you.
Surrounded is currently casting passionate 55 and older Trump supporters who are ready to have a thoughtful conversation about politics.
My final claim is the U.S. is more socialist than capitalist today. If you hate the system, you're anti-socialist.
This will be interesting.
Hello.
You're back at it again.
Yep. Yeah, so I think it's super important here for all leftists alike, but for the audience in general to define what these terms are. And I think the best way to do it would be to look at the theorists, right? Over history, we've seen communism and socialism talked about by governments and by, I guess, programs, but we never actually read the actual theory. And what theorists all agree on is that socialism would be a transitionary state between capitalism and communism, where the means of production are specifically owned by workers, not privately. The idea that any country now is anywhere near socialist, let alone communist, would simply be ridiculous and just it wouldn't reflect theory whatsoever.
What is the definition of communism to you?
I would want further elaboration on the concept of like the means of production being owned by the workers. Like, I need to know exactly what that means for my brain to understand it, just because when you tell me that the means of productions are owned by the workers, does that mean everybody has a say on how that works as well? Because when you have too many essentially cooks in the kitchen, yeah, that kitchen is going down. And if you have too many people making decisions on a means of production, most likely that production will go down with it.
Stateless, moneyless, classless society.
And you prefer that?
Stateless, moneyless, classless society. I feel like that is and somebody could correct me if this has ever been a thing. I don't think that's ever been a thing in history where there was just a straight up classless society, where there was no tiers when it comes to humans, like social hierarchies and things like that. As far as I know from history, going back to what I learned in school, there's always been that kind of system in one point or another.
Yeah, so I think that we should be moving towards,
communism.
Yeah, stateless, moneyless, classless society.
So
yeah.
you don't think a person like me should exist with the amount of wealth that I have?
Yeah, because I think that we're getting to this point where we're creating fake scarcity for people like you to accumulate the wealth that you have on the basis of private ownership.
Okay, so you're not even.
Even when your room is 80 degrees, your bed can be 55. That's the pod. A cooling cover.
Not capitalist. You're definitely not capitalist. You're not socialist. You want to go full communism.
So what do you think that looks like, though, is a thing, right? So what Marx actually wanted was for us to reach a point where we no longer have the scarcity of resources that has kind of predicted, history as it looks like now. It wouldn't happen now. It would happen as we automate. At this point in time, we can decommodify housing and food and education for around 5% of the government budget. That's 1/5.
This claim is not realistic. For instance, U.S. consumers and entities spent $2.6 trillion on food alone in 2024. The government spent a total of $6.75 trillion, so food would have been 38% of that. So wait, what did she say before that?
And you're not capitalist. You're definitely not
how
capitalist.
Much did she
you're
say
not
it was gonna be,
socialist.
like $5 trillion?
You want to go full communism.
So what do you think that looks like, though, is a thing, right? So what Marx actually wanted was for us to reach a point where we no longer have the scarcity of resources that has kind of predicted, history as it looks like now. It wouldn't happen now. It would happen as we automate. At this point in time, we can decommodify housing and food and education for around 5% of the government budget. That's.
So she says for 5% of the government budget, we can decommodify food, housing, and education. Meanwhile, food by itself is $2.6 trillion, 38% of the budget. Yeah, this is just Sam telling you, like, yeah, your thoughts are wildin'.
1/5, a little bit over 1/5 of what we spend on the military already. We don't, because we were living in the state where we it almost seems utopian that things like food and shelter.
How old were you the first time you thought you wanted to be a communist? How old were you the first time?
Is that a response to any
really
of the
curious.
statistics?
No, because the statistics are...
No, but I really do wish she would, like, respond directly to what she said, because, like, while I may not agree with 100% of what she's mentioned, she is bringing up some good points.
Against you.
The statistics...
It's never worked. There's so many Cubans that move to Miami. They love their country. They hate the politics. In Russia, they even run away from communism because it didn't work. It killed so many people.
Because that almost like it wasn't communist.
It's almost
was there a state?
amateurish
Yes,
to
there
debate
was. Was there
a
class?
communistic
yes,
argument.
there was. It's almost like you're not replying to any of the statistics that I've presented.
He's not, but at the same time, Jubilee just basically said that your statistic about the percentage that you can use to whatever, education, housing, and food just went out the window completely.
I think that's the biggest problem.
You're a dictator telling me what dreams should be.
Dictators would not be allowed under communism.
Dictators end up, of course, running communism.
But they weren't.
If somebody's taxing 100%, what is a dictatorship?
So again, how much money do you think?
100% in taxes. What is communism?
How much money
That's
do you
dictatorship.
think? How much money do you think would it take to, I don't know, allow everyone food, shelter, water, and education in this country?
More than what you said just like a couple minutes earlier.
How much money would it take?
Yeah.
But going back to your question here with communism, stay on that.
No, Patrick, answer the question. Again, this is the thing about debates: questions and answers. Why are you trying to go around it?
The point there with
Nothing
communism.
I say is responded
but
to.
I'm trying to find out from you here. You're saying communism is not dictatorship.
No.
Define dictatorship.
Yeah, so when one person or one small entity, is able to, enforce its will on the people. When we have a private ownership, when we have a system based on private ownership, that's what happens every single time.
That's dictatorship.
Yeah, so
dictatorship is private ownership.
Yeah, so private.
So let me get this straight. Under communism, under communism, doesn't Elon Musk exist?
Yeah, no.
No, so that's dictatorship. Thank you.
That's completely incorrect. Under capitalism, we don't have, the freedom for people to.
You do.
Okay,
of course you do.
Under capitalism, right? We don't see that the commodification.
Would you consider China communism right now? Would you consider China communism right now?
Shelter or water or education.
Would you consider China
y'all two just need to stop talking because neither one of y'all are getting anywhere. You're just constantly trying to talk over each other. Nobody's answering questions. Like, just stop this whole part of the debate.
And with 5% of the budget. Why don't we see that?
Would you consider China communism?
Why haven't you answered any of my questions?
Would you consider
Why
China?
haven't you responded to any of my statistics?
Would you consider China communism?
It's almost like we're not having a conversation and you're talking at me and not with me.
We are having a conversation where you have an argument that's been proven that it's not worked.
It's almost like I just gave you a definition of communism for you to critique and you haven't been able to.
If it's such a great system, why are other nations not?
It hasn't happened yet because we've never been at a point for it to happen.
Because we've not found a noble person that can do it the right way that's not a dictator.
If you were to read the plain text of Marx, we would see that he wanted us to reach.
I've read Communist Manifesto. I've gone through it.
I promise you, if you have, you wouldn't have said that capitalism today is socialist.
Have you read Wealth of Nations?
Yeah, so I've read Das Kapital, I've read the Communist Manifesto as well, Engels' Collective Works, etc. What do you think, if you think that communism is in any way us having wages or us having, a privatized means of production, you don't know what it is.
You choose my dreams, and I refuse to do that.
Who are you arguing with?
Dictate my dreams.
Where did you get that from?
What do you mean?
Well, haven't I? That was...
About time. I'm surprised y'all didn't put up the flags earlier because that needed to stop.
That was interesting.
Woo! Well, let's go. Justin, nice to meet you.
Justin, good to meet you.
How you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. So I need to pick your brain a little bit. You're saying U.S. is largely socialist. I want to focus on the word largely. Mm-hmm. So why do you believe it is largely socialist?
Because 68% or so of the money that we take in goes towards entitlement programs.
So I think one of the things that is going to be major to me, it's like Zena was touching on earlier, is going to be the fact that socialism is a big part of it is going to be workers owning the means of productions. Mm-hmm. When we have President Biden, for example, telling that the railroad strikers, it's going to be illegal for them to strike, I don't see that as much of a workplace democracy.
Did you have a question, or you're just saying the fact that you don't agree with President Biden and what he said?
I'm just saying, according core tenet of socialism is the workers owning the means of production. The workers currently do not own the means of production. So why do you believe it is largely socialist?
So you're saying the workers should own the means of production?
That is correct.
Okay, so to you, that's the definition of socialism.
That is a core tenet of it.
What else would you define as socialism? I'm curious.
There's a lot of different things. It's like Zena was touching on as well. Moneyless, stateless class of society. But I think more important than not, workers owning the means of production and workplace democracy.
Or are you more socialist?
They're the same term, man. Marx used them interchangeably.
The only difference I would put is because where I see in America,
that face was the face of no, it is not.
I think we are extremely getting close to being a socialistic nation with the amount of taxes that we have in place right now.
That's great.
But at least under communism, I can't survive. I would prefer us staying at the 10% tax rate. I think we're paying way too much taxes.
Why would you not be able to survive?
I wouldn't be able to pursue my dreams that I have in place under communism. My mother's family, they were part of the Two-Day Party. The Two-Day Party in Iran was a communist party. They had escaped Armenia and Russia and came down to Iran, and they pursued communism. I grew up in a family where everything was about the rich are greedy, the rich people are bad, the rich people are this, and the rich people are that. My dad's side, they were imperialist. My dad's side, they said, poor people are lazy. So one side, rich people are greedy. The other side, poor people are lazy. Who's right?
Both. There are rich, greedy people, and there are lazy, poor people. Like, everybody keeps thinking that this is all black and white, and one side is evil, one side is good, when the truth is, there's all of these everywhere.
I would say that neither are right, of course.
I would say both are right and wrong, is what I would say.
Both are right.
And wrong. Both are right and wrong. Because I do believe there are extremely greedy rich people. And I do believe there are extremely lazy poor people. But I also believe there's a lot of hardworking poor people that are working, but they haven't found a way to get out of it. I agree with that as well.
So that's actually a major point right there. They're not able to get out of it.
You can get out of it. You could actually get out of it.
But you just said they're not able to.
No, because they're choosing not to develop. I just made an offer for a book recommendation here, so I'm not interested. If I sit there and somebody's giving you feedback and saying, what about if you think about finding ways to improve your life?
Offer me that book then. I'll check it out.
You would read the book?
Sure, why not?
I'll give you a handful of them.
We'll talk about this
I'll
after
give it to you afterwards.
Yeah,
of course. The point I'm trying to make to you is, if you can exist under a capitalistic society, and I can exist under a capitalistic society, so can she. But
we can both exist under a socialistic society.
Not under communistic, and under socialism, the incentive would be bad. Think about it this way.
Incentive is high under socialism as well, but that's not what we're doing.
During COVID, take the two states, California and New York. They lost $1 trillion of wealth that left. Do you know where they went to?
Where did they go to?
They went to Texas, Nevada, Florida, Tennessee. You know why? Because it's a better climate for entrepreneurs. Today, if you look at New York City, you know Mamdani.
That's just how the market works.
You know who Mamdani is.
I understand how
you know who Mamdani is. Are you a fan of Mamdani?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, from
I love
New York.
Zoran.
Zoran's up there saying he doesn't believe billionaires should exist.
Correct.
I hope he wins. I hope he wins. You know why? Because he says, I don't believe billionaires should exist, and he's going to be the mayor of a city that has the most billionaires in America, 123. I hope he wins so we can see what happens to New York when the billionaires leave. When they leave, here's who's going to pay the price. The people that are left behind who were taking advantage of the taxes that billionaires were paying. You think the government's going to change their budget and expenditure?
When there's a $30...
No.
Yeah. So I mentioned this earlier. I also, because I'm from New York, born and raised, still live here. I want to see a New York City run by Mamdani and how he is planning on doing things in New York, because it would make a phenomenal case study of democratic socialism. Because everybody says, in theory, it works. Nobody's had the chance to actually implement it because, we haven't had a chance to put the person in charge that can implement it. And honestly, New York would be such a great case study on it. Is it going to be a pain? Yes. Do I think a lot of things that Mamdani is promising he'll be able to do? Absolutely not. Some of the things that he can do. The rent freezes, which only affects rent stabilized housing. He can do that because the mayor appoints the members of the Rent Guidelines Board who sets the prices. The free buses for transit. That's something I actually agree with, but I'm pretty sure he needs approval from Albany with the state government, and knowing Kathy Hochul and how she is when it comes to revenue in the state of New York, doubt she's going to do it. She was pushing for congestion pricing and still pushing to this day. What is it? The government-run grocery stores is really what I want to see the case study on, and I really want to see more of the long-term effects of it. Because with the government-run grocery stores, everybody just sees the headline of cheaper groceries. Great. The reason they're cheaper is because these grocery stores don't necessarily have to worry about paying sales taxes. They don't have to pay rent, from what I hear, from like the news articles and everything, which means they can undercut pricing. Now, when you undercut pricing, well, there's only but so much that other grocery stores can cut down to, because they have more overhead. They do have rent. They do have to pay sales taxes. They do have to pay employees and all that stuff. So what may happen, most likely, is that the smaller grocery stores, if this were to be implemented, and the way I see it going, is that if it does get implemented and prices are slashed so low that the smaller grocery stores can't handle it, they'll close down or move, which leaves you with either the government-run grocery store or the big chain grocery stores that can possibly get away with this, like lowering prices and whatnot, because they'll just do excessive volume. Okay, you're left with these two. Now what happens? The government-run grocery stores, because prices are so low, they will sell out pretty quickly. And if you look around with government-run grocery stores throughout the country, it has been reported that a lot of these grocery stores are pretty much nearly empty because they can't supply fast enough because the demand is so excessive, which means those grocery stores are empty. The small mom and pop shops are gone. That leaves you with the big chain grocery stores. Big chain grocery store was waiting for this time so they can jack up prices. At least that's what my mind thinks is going to happen.
Minimum wage, I can't imagine.
Middle America is going to take the biggest hit if billionaires leave the state of New York. You'll see.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that whole thing with taxes. Yeah, that's very true. If you look at the history of taxes in the United States, I believe the original tax plan was a 1% tax on the wealthiest people in the country. And then those taxes ended up going towards everybody, and then the rates just kept going up. If you open a new tax, eventually it is going to be spread to everybody.
Oh, you're back.
Hello
How
again.
are you? Good to see you.
Learn a bit more.
Okay.
Firstly, I want to start by saying that the U.S. is not largely socialist, because that's not what socialism is. Socialism is social or collective ownership by the workers or a community of the means of production, right? So we're talking about like city-run grocery stores, or we're talking about worker cooperatives, or even in some cases credit unions, where a local community owns the bank that they take part in, right? That's what socialism is. Socialism is not when the government does stuff for you. It's not when they build roads. That happens under capitalist economies. That happens under socialist economies. But I'm also not sure you entirely know what capitalism is. And if it's okay, I'd like to ask a couple questions about your job.
Sure.
Because you're offering that. I know that you're Valuetainment, right? You run a YouTube podcast. Mm-hmm. You also run PHP Agency, right?
Yep.
Yes. And you sell life insurance policies, right?
Life insurance and annuities.
Yes. I read an article by the Daily Beast which argued that you make more money from recruitment fees to get people to work for you than you make money from selling those policies. Capitalism is when you provide a service and sell the labor of yourself or the person who works for you in return for money. But you're not really doing that, right? You're selling being part of the company through recruitment fees. I'm not sure that's capitalism.
How familiar are you with the insurance industry?
Pretty familiar.
Are you?
Yes.
You've been in the industry before?
No, my grandfather was, and I asked him a lot of questions.
So in the insurance industry, when you're in it,
yes,
you get paid
yes.
by selling life insurance policies, and you get paid by selling annuities.
Yes.
We built a distribution channel of a company right after I left Morgan Stanley and Transamerica. We started the insurance company. We grew it, helping middle-income families who didn't have another opportunity to create wealth for themselves. I just came back from our event in Vegas.
Hold on, I'm not sure that's correct.
So I have heard about the issues with PHP Agency, which is Patrick Bet-David's either current or former company, because I think he sold it. And And it does give the vibe of an MLM based on that. I spent like a week working in insurance. I never had to pay to join. The most I ever had to pay was just my licensing fees for it. Don't really know the ins and outs of that one. I'm definitely interested in like learning more about it. But I also can't take seriously an article from the Daily Beast.
Though. It is though.
It's not correct though, because what do you make more money
I just came back from, we don't make more money from recruiting.
I read the Daily Beast article that did that. I also watched CoffeeZilla's debate with you, where he pulled up receipts that the majority of the employees of your company don't make any money.
Here's a question for you. Here's a question.
Okay, I will say the whole ordeal of a vast majority of people in the industry are not making money. That's the case for pretty much any kind of commission or sales job. I work in real estate. The vast majority of people in this industry who has a license are not really making much money, if any at all. Life insurance is the same thing. Any kind of commission sales role is the same thing. It doesn't necessarily mean it's an MLM or it's a scam. It really is just the way it is when it comes to commission sales. You eat what you kill. You have to hustle. You have to grind to get your sales. And unfortunately, a lot of people are not willing to put in that kind of work because they see the flash, they see the money coming in, and they think it's so easy to get it done. So many people actually getting into it. So many people think it's so easy to get into real estate, which it is easy to get into it. It's hard to succeed in this industry, especially if you are on like the buyer side or the renter side, because you're running around getting clients, you're showing them around, you are helping them process things, whether it is loan applications, apartment applications if it's a lease, scheduling things like inspections or anything if you're buying a property. And it's a lot. It's a lot to do that over and over and over and building that pipeline from scratch. But a lot of people think because it's sales, it's easy. So they get into it knowing that the barrier of entry is so low. And when they realize that they can't do it because it is a lot harder than what they thought, then they turn around and call it a scam. And it's just really not.
Sure. Bring up CoffeeZilla.
Yeah.
Daily Beast is a different story. Go to CoffeeZilla.
Sure, of course.
Do you think if I was worried about my business model, I would go on CoffeeZilla? What do you think? Do you
think it's not really capitalist.
Hang on a second. Do you think if I was worried about my business model, I would go on CoffeeZilla? They were actually very strong when they came back after me. We had a 2-hour conversation.
Yes.
We finished it. It was good to go. We moved on. Their claims that only 1% or 2% make and nobody makes it in insurance, they're right. Most people don't make it in insurance. Just like most people who move to California don't make it in Hollywood.
So I believe
and
the
most people
technical
don't make it in
term
real
for when you
estate.
make more money from getting people to be part of a company than from actually selling a service is called a multi-level marketing scheme. Do you think that that's a fair characterization of your company? Why not?
Do you know what multi?
No, it is not, because with multi-level marketing, it is essentially... So let's compare both of them. So he says that PHP agency, his insurance agency, supposedly makes more money off of recruitment fees. That means that the person, let's say me, is paying the company to join their firm. Okay. Now, a multi-level marketing is similar to where I am paying to join this company, like Amway and companies like that. But it goes literally like a pyramid where it's like the person up top is making money from everybody below them. What this sounds more like is that me as a person is paying the company, not necessarily putting money in the pocket of the person above me, which is what an MLM really is. Take it from me, I've been suckered into Amway, and I was almost suckered into a second one called Aspire, Digital Altitude, something like that. This was way back in the day. I was a dumb college student.
Yes, I know. It's where you make more money from, it's sort of like a pyramid scheme, wherein you make more money from getting people to be part of it and selling them to be part of the company.
A pyramid scheme doesn't have a product. That's criminal. A multi-level marketing company is more like an Amway, an Herbalife, a New Skin, those companies.
Okay. But
because it pays you.
You are making more money from getting people to be part of your company than you are from making money from actually providing a service.
That's not true. It's a claim by Daily Beast. By the way, do you know what equality of earnings is?
Yes.
What's equality of earnings? Tell everybody what equality of earnings is. Go ahead.
Fair point. The quality of earnings isn't that like the value that's produced from when you make the money? Like how much from the labor that's produced, or am I wrong?
What is quality of earnings?
I gave you what I think the definition is.
Okay. So quality of earnings is I sit there and I want to sell the business to you.
Yeah.
You make an offer of $250 million. Okay? I tell you, this is my business. Here's how much profit we make. You leave and you say, great, let's make a deal. I'll pay $250 million. We shake on it. Then you validate whether it is worth that or not by going and paying a big company a few $100,000 to check the quality.
So same deal as like having someone
earnings.
look at the quality of the gold that you're going to buy.
PwC came and they do a quality of earnings to say, is this company really worth this? They get to make a decision.
Not necessarily. The better example, again, me being in housing and real estate and whatnot, it's essentially like when you get an appraiser, like you're in negotiation to buy a house and you get an appraiser to check the value of it. That's what basically the quality of earnings report is. It's essentially a third party going through all the documents, all the paperwork, figuring out like P&L reports and income revenue reports, things like that, to basically gauge what the true value of the company is. So that way the buyer knows, hey, yeah, this is the actual value of what you're purchasing. Same thing with real estate.
And whether the company is truly doing what your daily basis claims to do.
The
and
value comes from your brand. It comes from going on podcasts like that, even when they expose the business model, because you're not selling.
Do you know what ended up happening? Don't make claims you don't know about.
Do you know what you're selling?
Do you know what ended up happening?
You know what you're selling, right?
Do you know what ended up happening?
Do you know what you're selling?
The company
you're selling
ended
your
up
personal
buying,
brand.
This dude is spending more time trying to get a gotcha moment because he's bringing up things from a very, very respectable YouTube channel in CoffeeZilla, but also the Daily Beast article. Yet it's not like a claim of his own that he researched or anything. He's just citing those two sources.
Selling the idea, because when you're offering people here jobs, right? You're saying that they would have to pay you money to get that. So in reality, you're trying to convince them to pay you money to be part of your
claims
company.
of defaming. Be very careful defaming when you don't know the facts.
You have a recruitment
be very
fee.
Careful. Be very
you do
careful
have a
claiming.
Recruitment fee.
Be very
That's
careful
all.
making that claim when you said people here have to pay to work at our company.
It's recruitment
Be very
fee.
careful. No, those are two different things.
I need allies. I want you to join me.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you? Tatiana.
Tatiana?
Yeah,
Good to
Anya,
meet you.
but yes. And your name's Patrick, right?
It is.
And I don't know a lot about you before coming
That's
in
even
today. But why do you use socialism and capitalism like in this instance? I've noticed a lot of people have defined the vast differences, but you're insisting that we're still like a more socialist like country. Why are you insisting upon
that's
that?
a fair question. So for me, there's different definitions you can have. Under communism, to me, it's 100% taxes, meaning I can't go create my own property. If I want to build a billion-dollar company, I can't do it under communism. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, I guess it is.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
So capitalism, I would ideally like to see taxes between 10 to 30% max. I'd like a flat tax, but somewhere between 10 to 30%, because I still do think there's certain things that the government needs to do. Military protection, certain things. Socialism to me is 30% and up. Anything above that you're taking the money away from me without my choice to use it for things where we get to 68% of entitlement programs, I'm not a fan of that.
Okay, so let's talk about where we're at. I believe you said reasonable wage and minimum wage. But what about a livable wage? And we haven't really talked about livable wages because they
What do you
differ.
think about minimum wage? So what do you think minimum wage should be?
So I think we have a long way to go.
Okay.
I'm not really a big fan of these little increment things, especially when it's not like rent. It's stopping and leveling out. It's like it's far exceeding what most people
I don't disagree, for sure.
make.
Yep.
And so I'm just wondering how you still can sit here and say that when I know you like to talk about you came up from Haagen-Dazs and all this other stuff.
In Glendale Galleria, 20 minutes away
great.
from here.
Love that for you. But we're talking about where you are today and where I am a majority of these people in the room.
Sure.
And I haven't really
you can
heard.
Change.
Yes, we can change, but I think that there's certain systems.
Are you
in
talking
place.
minimum wage? You want to address the minimum wage
topic? We can talk
topic?
minimum wage, but I like to say livable wage because I think they're two very different things.
What do you think it should be?
I think that we should go per state because every state is different in
Give
terms
me a
of
number.
what they
Where
have.
do you live? You live in California?
I live in California.
What do you think
so
it should be?
Based
minimum
on the
wage.
MIT living wage calculator, it's an actual livable wage calculator. It's $27.81 should be the starting, and then if you have kids and so forth, then you can go up from there.
Okay.
But starting.
So $27.81. So I'm just curious on what that number is on a yearly basis. So $27.81 an hour. I'm assuming 80 hours every paycheck. I'm going to go bi-weekly. So basically, supposedly, a living wage in California is $57,844. I don't think so. Not in California. That's not livable. I think you might need to like almost double it.
At about $27 hourly.
So let's look at case studies of what happened. California chose to increase the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 an hour, restaurant workers. Do you know what happened in the state of California? Mass exodus. People left and went different places. You know what restaurant owners did? Like, I can't compete with these guys if you raise the minimum wage. But the challenge with minimum wage is also the following. So say there's two companies.
The bigger one is fast food workers during that time. Around that same time that minimum wage went up in California, that's when McDonald's really started pushing out the automated kiosks, which basically replaced the need for cashiers in restaurants. Now you go to most fast food places, you'll probably see like one or two people there. Maybe one of them works the one cash register that's there, but a lot of the times, a lot of us are now used to ordering from the kiosk, and then they just focus on making the food and then picking up, which means a lot of these owners, these franchise owners, save a lot of money on paying wages because they just got to worry about upkeep of the kiosks.
You have Walmart, okay, in Bakersfield, pick a city, and you have a different supermarket that's been in the same family for 60 years. The governor here says we're going to raise the minimum wage to $20 an hour. Who do you think can afford it? The market that's been within a family, the small business, or do you think Walmart? Who do you think can afford to go to $20 an hour minimum wage?
So that's why I think we have to factor in other systems other than capitalism. I think you're kind of making the point that's been made a few times today, where we can't just look at one thing.
This hasn't been made. No, this hasn't been made. The point I'm making here is, anytime a Bernie Sanders gets up and says, let's raise the minimum wage for $15, and he was caught in his campaign not paying his own workers $15, $13 an hour, and he had to talk about it and apologize that even a guy that's a socialist wasn't paying a minimum wage. But if you raise it to $15, Amazon celebrates.
Okay.
Walmart celebrates. Do you know why? Because the employers from this supermarket that have been working for this family for the longest time, they can't afford to pay that. So they leave and go to Amazon and Walmart. What happens? The bigger companies keep getting bigger. The small businesses go out of business because of minimum wage.
Okay, so you mentioned Bernie Sanders. I didn't mention him. Cool for Bernie Sanders, whatever. Do you pay a livable wage or a minimum wage for your employees?
There's not a single soul in our company that I pay $15 an hour or $20 an hour.
Okay, so are you paying them livable wages though?
Absolutely.
Okay,
of course we
based
are.
on your standards
because
or based
of my
on
choice.
Like the stats?
Because of my choice.
So you're determining what people's livable wages are?
Well, no, I look at the marketplace and I see what's going on, and I get to pick and choose what percentile of people I want to hire. Do I want to hire bottom 10%, 25%, 50%? I'll pay a little bit more because I want to get somebody that's got a little bit more experience.
Okay. Okay.
Titania?
Titania.
Thank you.
Hi again, Patrick.
How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good.
Can you remind me again why you think this country is largely socialist?
Out of the $4.9 trillion of revenue that we get in, 4.9, 68% goes to entitlement programs. That's the reason why I say America's socialism.
Do you think that we should have a say in where our taxpayer dollars go?
That's why we have elections.
Okay.
And you vote for it. Yeah.
So you agree that we should have a say in where our taxpayer dollars go?
If you're asking me who should have a right to vote,
I would say, like, yes, we should have a right to vote on like where our tax money goes. I get it. We do vote for the people that we put in office, namely Congress. But I do think that we need to have like a direct say in like where money is allocated to.
Change the system in a major way of who would have the right to vote?
I'm not asking you if people
You're asking me a question.
I'm not
and
asking
I'm
you who should have the right to vote.
Right.
I'm asking you, do you think that
the
our
current system
taxpayer dollars should be dictated by us?
The
where that
current
goes?
election allows you to vote and decide who you want to be your candidate.
Absolutely. Okay. So I would argue that the biggest handouts go to billionaires because we give billions and billions of dollars in subsidies to billionaires every single year. Elon Musk just got a huge raise. Not sure why. He's worth over like hundreds of billions of dollars.
You're talking be specific. You're talking about SpaceX?
I'm talking about SpaceX, Tesla. I'm
SpaceX?
talking about the companies that we fund as taxpayers. So why did we never vote for that?
Why did you never vote for the money going to some of these companies?
Do you see an issue with the fact that we as taxpayers didn't have a say in, first of all, electing this tech oligarch?
Once you elect somebody,
deciding where our taxpayer dollars go.
Once you elect who you elect, what they do next, you don't have a say during that time.
We didn't elect
until
him.
the next election. No, I'm talking Congress, Senate. They make a decision on who they give the money to, and they approve.
But he's been getting this amount of subsidies through every administration. I'm not just referring to the Trump administration.
Let's talk about how he's done. Okay, so the NASA was shut down many years ago. Okay, since then, how has NASA done? Trying to find a way to go to space. What has SpaceX done? SpaceX has been able to do.
What has NASA done? NASA gave us the satellite, which you use every time you use your phone.
If you let me finish, NASA versus SpaceX. Elon Musk, as much as you hate him, Elon Musk was able to go to space for 1/20th of a cost because government organizations
Elon Musk has the ability to eradicate extreme poverty in this country, and he chooses to send rockets into space and make extremely ugly cars that we never actually funded.
What does that have to do with the point you were trying to make? Like, I was with you for most of what you said until now you want to bring it up to, well, this person got the money to eradicate poverty, which, come on. Like, we've talked about how much it would take to get rid of, like, the need for, not the need, but commoditizing housing, food, and all of that. It's drastically higher than what some of the other panelists thought.
Believe it or not, most liberals drive his cars. So,
well, I would say the Cybertrucks. It's a poor decision aesthetically.
The Cybertruck.
I'm not discussing the aesthetics of his products.
It's so funny because when you say what you say about the Democratic side on the climate change side, the guy that's worked towards that the most, you guys loved him till he supported Trump. Elon was your favorite 8 years ago until he supported Trump. The moment he went into Trump, this guy's a horrible guy. This guy's a terrible guy.
To be fair, I've hated Elon Musk consistently throughout my adult life. And I also think that he is someone who has benefited immensely from the government. That's why I find hypocrisy in what you're saying.
I don't disagree in that side.
He's benefited immensely from the exploitation of labor overseas. He's benefited immensely from his extremely aggressive union tactics, union busting tactics. So I'm saying, like, why
is he a net positive to you for society?
Is he a net positive for me personally?
Is he a net positive for society, not for you?
I wouldn't say so.
You don't think he is?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Who to you is a net positive to society? Bernie Sanders?
Bernie Sanders is, I would say he's a compromise candidate, but I would say that...
He's a compromise candidate.
Yes, I would say he's a compromise candidate.
AOC a net positive to society?
I would say net positive, yes.
More than Musk is?
Yes, absolutely.
Really? Tell me why.
Because AOC wants to introduce a Green New Deal, and I think that...
Go into the fold and turn website layouts into an art form with Wix Studio.
The New Deal is the closest thing...
For $30 trillion?
Okay, Trump literally just added $3.4 trillion to our deficit, so I really don't want to hear...
Between 30 trillion and
so I'm saying,
3 trillion.
I'm saying that I think that, when we look at the system that we currently have, I think that we need to redistribute the wealth in a significant way, and we need to reintroduce something like the New Deal. And I think AOC has been the closest to doing that. I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan of her, but I'm saying that we need a marginal tax rate.
We need to redistribute wealth in a significant way, but... The question I always have when people bring that up is how? Like, what is the way to do it? Like, you hear the classic, like, oh, tax people who make this certain amount of money. Okay, but what happens to that wealth afterwards? Like, where is it going? Is it going to programs? Is it going to checks to people's pockets? Like, what is that? That's what I really want to know.
Right.
That is something similar to the New Deal, 70 to 90%. Ideally, I would go for a wealth tax. Anyone over $999 million has to pay every year. But I'm saying that...
Say that one more time. You would do what? Anybody that makes over...
I would introduce a wealth tax. So
okay.
I'd say that anyone who makes over $999 million needs to pay. So I think that no one should be a billionaire. I think that we should put the cap...
No one should be a billionaire.
Absolutely not. Do you think that people can survive on $999 million?
This isn't how life works.
Do you think someone could survive on $999 million? I'm asking you, do you think...
I'll answer the question. Yes, people can survive on $999 million. Yes, that is a truth. People can survive off of that. Now, the problem is, in my personal opinion, that's why I'm stuttering so much, is the fact that who are we to say, like, you built this, but you can't maximize how much you can make? that's where the problem really is. Because I think about it for me, like, if I spend my entire time building something, scaling something, I don't want somebody to tell me, well, you're maxed out at this. Maybe that's my own childhood trauma, because, again, growing up on public assistance, well, not public assistance, my grandmother will have a fit if I said that. Growing up on like Section 8, food stamps and all of that, that was kind of the same ordeal. Like, when you're on those programs, you can't make but a certain amount of money or else they threaten to kick you off the program. So me personally, I hated those limiting beliefs even as a kid. So as an adult now, it's like, if I'm working towards something, who are you to tell me what I can do? Like, how much I can personally make off of this? So in that case, I'm more in line with what Patrick Bet-David says on this, more than what this individual is like telling me right now.
Someone would be okay.
You don't get to dictate.
Do you think someone's life would be impaired if they had only $999 million instead of $1 billion? You're not answering the question.
Fortunately,
Answer
these
my
companies
question.
that continue to grow,
Why are you avoiding my question?
created jobs for others.
Do you think someone
And
could
you,
reasonably
in America,
survive on
don't get to
$999
dictate
million?
how big a person wants to build their business. That's not
Why
your
do
vote.
you-
By the way, why
do you
don't
think
you
we-
elect someone that pursues?
Now, I will say, though, on the downside with Patrick Bet-David, he's not answering that question at all. And I kind of get it. It's like a yes or no question, but if I answer yes to it, then you're just going to try to talk over me and say, oh, so you can live off of it, da-da-da. No, it's not about that. There's more nuance that goes into it, but you should answer it.
Those policies. Bernie was your hero for many years. He became compromised.
I never said he was my hero.
But how did Bernie become compromised?
I said that
You said he's a compromised
I said he's a compromised
candidate.
candidate.
Why is he a compromised candidate?
I mean, he was definitely compromised by the Democratic Party, who didn't want him elected.
What happened?
I'm saying he's a compromised candidate in that I would go further than him, but I also know that he's probably the best we have right now, and I would like to see him as president, ideally, or someone similar. I think Zohran Mamdani, who you mentioned earlier, I think he's an excellent
I can't
candidate.
wait for him to win. You know why I
is
can't
that?
wait for him to win? Because I can't wait for the data that comes out after he wins. I can't wait to show you all the numbers in the next 4 years after he wins.
If rich people have to flee New York
They will.
because of his policies,
They
that
will.
means that they're too economically fragile
No,
to
because
handle
if you
those
don't
taxes.
appreciate people that
It's not about being economically fragile. It's called having the flexibility that if you don't believe in what's going on in a certain place, you can move. It's a funny thing. Me and my dad have this saying now, like whenever we're in someone's house and, you know, something comes up or somebody gets an attitude, the one statement we can say is we can leave. Like, we have our own places we can go to. And that is what the billionaires are very likely to do under a Mamdani mayoral candidacy. Not candidacy, mayoral, whatever, when he is going to become mayor of the city. It's not about, oh, they can't cut it dealing with the taxes. No, they don't have to deal with it. They can leave, which some of them will. Some of them may stay, but a lot of them will leave.
create jobs, they will go somewhere that they're
What kind of jobs are we
appreciated.
creating?
We
have to look past job
they
creation.
They pay high-paid jobs.
No, we do not have to look past job creation. I'm sorry. If we're in a society where you have to like have a quote unquote livable wage for yourself, then you need a means of making money. Well, the means of making money falls into two parts. Either you are operating and owning a business where you are providing a certain set of values a certain set of supplies for value, or you have to work a job. And if you have to work a job, that means there needs to be somebody to create jobs. No jobs created, no job available, no money going in your pocket. How can you say that we have to look past that?
Any of the
If
jobs,
you bring value to the market.
the reality is that Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos, they have huge monopolies over our market, and they're able to pay as little in wages as they'd like.
Has a monopoly. I think the only company that has a
They quite
monopoly.
literally control the wages and the costs in our economy.
Right.
Find the perfect mattress for your best sleep during the Labor Day mattress sale at Raymond Flanigan.
At IHG Hotels and Resorts,
This is the first time I've had more than one ad in
live like a local.
When Amazon has 60% control over e-commerce,
I am
they can quite
hoping
literally decide what wages and what costs people can earn and pay.
Your candidate AOC
I never said she was my candidate.
She's a net positive to society.
You're making false endorsements on my
You said AOC is a net positive to society more than Elon Musk.
Absolutely,
Perfect.
yes.
When AOC was in New York, Amazon wanted to bring 25,000 jobs to New York. These were jobs that were paying
What do those jobs look like?
$150 a year.
Because from what I understand, the people who work for Amazon have to walk 10 to 15 miles per shift. They have higher injury rates than the industry average.
These were jobs that were paying $150 a year.
I think we've been stopped.
She went against it. They went to a different place.
So if we're talking about like the Amazon warehouse jobs, yeah, those have like notoriously bad working conditions. But I do believe that it was supposed to be like a giant office space for Amazon too. So there was a lot of like tech jobs that were going to open there, kind of like Silicon Valley-esque type jobs, which would have brought in higher salaried individuals. It would have drove up rents significantly higher than what it is now in New York. Personally speaking, I probably would be priced out of where I'm at now. But yeah, it would have brought in higher paying jobs than what like the normal Amazon warehouse would be paying.
25,000 jobs they lost in New York.
And what would those jobs look like?
$150K a year minimum.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go with my friend here. So I chose Mason because he was the only one that came up to me and said, Pat, I'd like to have a reasonable conversation with you. You came up. There was 3 other people I was thinking about. And because you were fair and respectful, I chose you.
So my claim is America has never been a meritocracy.
Okay. Tell me why.
So I think that when you see wealth disparity and the amount that it gives influences to certain individuals, specifically from a starting point, if we're looking at America like a race and someone is starting 2 inches from the finish line and somebody is starting a mile back, we would not say that this is a judgment of their merit. We'd say that this is a system that allows those with the most influence to continue to be successful.
So is it about some of the people that got generational wealth have an advantage over others that didn't get it?
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily saying that that's a moral failure. I'm just saying when people claim that capitalism is a meritocracy, that's just factually inaccurate. And we shouldn't be allowed to lie here. Like we should try to be coming to a common consensus.
So capitalism...
I need to know like the exact definition of meritocracy before I can even like have an opinion on that. But if you're saying that things are not fair because some people are born with certain advantages based on the work from generations beforehand, I would say I agree, but I also would not care about other people's advantages. I would say run your race, focus on what you got to focus on, stop looking ahead towards like the advantages that other people have. Honestly, you spend more time looking to like in front of you at other people, like looking towards other people, is the less time you have focusing on what you need to do to better your own life.
Is not a meritocracy.
No.
So you mean to tell me nobody here can go out there and win if they wanted to at the highest level?
No, I think that there's a probability that people can have social mobility or increase their economic conditions. It does not mean that everybody is able to. Some people could be a billionaire in the circle. Not everybody could be.
If you're saying not everybody's able to, I fully agree. I can play baseball, but I'm probably not going to play in Major League Baseball.
I can spend money on a lottery ticket. Doesn't mean I'm guaranteed to win the lottery.
I agree. So what's your point? I agree with you there.
So my point is that America is not meritocracy. You said
there's 2 things. Anybody at what levels you can have success. To me in life, there's 3 different types of people. You got overachievers, you got achievers, you got underachievers. Let me unpack this for a second. We got 10 minutes.
You can.
Overachiever, achiever, underachiever. Okay? You can find a guy in school. We all remember the kid in school that we're like, that kid's gonna win in life, and he didn't.
But you know what did win in life? That phrase.
I heard it's actually pronounced B.
He was supposed to be an overachiever. He ended up being an underachiever. And there were kids in school that we looked at, we said, that guy's not going to do anything with life. Dude, stay away from that guy. He ends up winning. He's an overachiever. So it's not about what you're, end up doing in your life. It's how close you reach to your capacity.
The winning that you're talking about, quote unquote, is wealth accumulation.
Not necessarily wealth accumulation.
It is. That's exactly what you just said.
If you end up, I have friends that make $120,000 a year. They have a good life. They're happily married, got 2 kids, and chose to go live in a place like Victorville. They chose to go live in a different place. But to me, that is winning. They're contributing to society.
I have a genuine question for you, Patrick.
Please.
Do you think that a nurse or a hedge fund manager offers more social utility?
This is documented. 14 years ago, I made a video talking about the 10 most honorable professions, and a hedge fund manager wasn't on that list, but a nurse was.
Wow.
I believe what nurses do, when my father's at the hospital and I see how they attend to him, you have no idea how much respect I have for nurses.
Right.
It's a tough job.
And,
However,
but I would say the hierarchy of what our society looks like does not prioritize that in the same way that you're saying
but
that it
there's a
does.
difference. So there's a difference. Do I think a nurse is more important to the market than a basketball player? Yes. But the market wants to watch a basketball player play, so they pay Steph Curry $60 million a year.
We both agree that America's...
And that is a fact. Like, I don't know how many times I will have to say it before people will actually believe it, but what you provide to the market will tell you what it's worth. Unfortunately, in some cases, it's unfair. Again, like nurses, doctors, well, mostly nurses, are severely underpaid for the amount of work that they do. Meanwhile, the market says we are willing to pay XYZ athlete however much money because we perceive this to be more valuable because it is our entertainment rather than dealing with the necessity. If you really want a real world example of that, just recently, there was a football player in the NFL, Micah Parsons, who just got traded from Dallas to Green Bay, Wisconsin. And he signed a contract that was 4 years, $188 million, $135 million of that fully guaranteed, and $120 million of that guaranteed at signing. Now, show me a nurse with that kind of contract. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist because the marketplace, unfortunately, does think that the NFL player is worth more than your local nurse.
Failing, right? Your last claim was about how America's socialist, and that's a bad thing. I assume that you're saying because of government intervention. Is
Absolutely.
That correct? So you think capitalism can exist without government intervention?
I think you need law and order because there will be abuse if you don't have it. In our insurance company, when I was run the company, I had to make sure there was law and order in there. If you don't have certain compliance, abuse will come in. When abuse comes in, if it's a free-for-all.
Are part of those laws like labor laws?
That can also be abused. No, it's a fair question you're asking, but a part of that can also be abused. A lot of those guys go in with the right intentions. Then they become dividers and they pin the employer against the employee. So then that is the divide and conquer model is very effective.
I just want to break this down. Do you think that there are not mutually exclusive interests in owners and workers?
Do I think there's mutual interest with owners and workers?
Do you think that they have a symbiotic relationship and when they're trying to achieve the same goal?
I like to give my employees equity because if you own equity in the company, you no longer are an employee. You treat it as if it's your own company. So I prefer to give my employees equity. But
laughing at that, but if you really want to keep a high-performing employee, from what I've seen with like a lot of tech startups and a lot of startup companies, if they want to keep some of their best employees, they do offer equity. And sheesh, if you are an employee and you have the chance of getting equity in the company that you work for, take that over like the higher wage if you can afford to deal with that. Because if it works out with the company, your equity in it will be worth way more than what the company will be able to pay you.
It's my choice. I don't want the government forcing me to give them equity. I'll give you a story. Do you remember that story of a guy who said, I pay every single one of my employees $70,000 a year? What was this guy's name? I don't know if you remember this guy. This story went viral. Socialism, what a noble guy. Everybody retweeted it, the Bernies of the world. Phenomenal guy. I invited him on the podcast. He comes on the podcast. I said, so tell me about your noble cause that you pay everybody $70,000 a year. He says, well, I don't think anybody should make over $70,000 a year. You can live off of $70,000 a year. I said, perfect. Right. How many employees do you have? Let me make the point.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't think that this is conducive to our conversation.
I said, how many employees do you have? He says 100. I said, how many of those 100 own a single share of your company? None of them do. Who does? I do. You're a socialist. claiming everybody should make that much money, but you're not giving equity?
I'm not endorsing this particular person. I'd love to look into this, and maybe I'll watch the interview later.
There's a lot of contradictions in socialism when it comes down to action.
There are contradictions in the way that workers are trying to get as much wages as possible. That's just guaranteed. I want to get the maximum amount for the labor that I put into it. A owner wants to do the exact opposite. It's not that they want to pay people what they're deserved. They want to pay people what they can get away with. That's just virtually...
No, an owner does not want to pay people what they can get away with. And I'm just speaking in a general term of owning a business. The owner wants to keep profits as high as possible. And that comes in a myriad of ways. It could be in increasing revenue in a company. It could come from decreasing expenses in the company, which can be considered with wages. However, a lot of companies do know if I want to accelerate revenue, sometimes I do have to spend more money, which means hiring more people. So no, companies are not automatically looking to just pay as little as possible, especially because in a lot of jobs, not in this current market because we're more in an employer market, it's very much a competitive landscape. Like, just depending on the industry and the skill set of the individual that they are looking to hire. For me personally, I can go from my job, which do love the company I work for. There's only a handful of companies in my industry in leasing in my certain subsection of it. And I can command more money than the average just because I have certain skills and experiences that a lot of applicants won't, like LIHTC, low-income housing tax credits, income restricted experience, rent stabilization experience, things like that. So yes, companies can try to pay as little as they need to within a certain range. However, the market ultimately dictates what that person's range will be depending on how specific the job is.
Sure. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case.
No, you already agree that coercion exists in the system.
It does.
You're just saying that socialism. You're saying that socialism is the government mandating owners to do it. But you're saying that markets do the exact same thing. You just said that the market price determines.
Don't put words in my mouth. I like you. You're respectful. You're a nice guy. Don't put words in my mouth.
Did you not say that markets determine market rates?
I haven't. What I'm telling you is there will be abuse in business. And if there is a person
I'm
like
going to ask you the same question as soon as you're done, but continue.
There is abuse in business. Some people will take advantage of that. But the benefit of a free market capitalism is if I don't treat you fairly, you go work for him. If he doesn't treat you fairly, you go work for him. Eventually, if you bring enough value, guess who can't afford to lose you? I can't afford to lose you.
Do you think that markets determine market rates?
If I can't afford to lose you, guess what I have to do to you?
Do you think that markets determine market rates?
You didn't answer my question. If I can't afford to lose you, guess what I do to you?
Do you know what a monopsony is?
Tell me about it.
So do you know the difference between a monopoly and a
I know
monopsony?
monopoly. Tell me about monopsony.
Okay, so a monopoly is a single seller who has rare competition within the selling of the distribution. That creates like inflated prices and that can hurt consumers. But a monopsony is one single buyer. So this is an employer. There are things called company towns. You brought up the example of Walmart outpricing small businesses.
Sure.
I think that's a fantastic example.
On the minimum wage side.
Right, yeah. of how there are large businesses that utilize their leverage and their influence and their capital in order to determine what those wages look like in a given particular place.
Sure.
So what I want to argue is minimum wages seem to stifle monopolies because they allow people to start at the same floor rate. You're saying that big businesses have an advantage when there's a minimum wage because they can pay more?
They do.
We are also advocating for higher taxation rates and capital gains taxes on these businesses that are supposedly taking advantage of the system.
I think
and you can invest this in tax breaks for small businesses, for people that have less employees. Maybe you say that less than 5 employees, they have certain tax incentives, so they're not taxed at the same rate as these large conglomerates. But that does not mean that a minimum wage is a bad idea, because like most people here said, you can't survive on less than $7 an hour in most places
You know
across
what's
the
the great thing about business and numbers and data is every idea is getting exposed. During COVID, all the policies that came out from the leftist side, they're all getting exposed today.
Name two.
Within time, everybody realizes what works and
Wait,
what
can
doesn't
you name
work.
those policies besides just saying that they
When states who
failed?
chose kids to stay home instead of going to school.
When is that a socialist policy?
That is a control, because when a government is ran in a way that they're controlling.
That's not socialism, my friend.
Socialism is a form of
Socialism
control.
is a workers' control of
Communism
their
is the
own.
ultimate control.
No, socialism is workers' control of their own workplace.
Socialism is a form of control. Communism is the ultimate control.
See, you're using this rhetorical device as saying that capitalism equals freedom.
I don't know how long I could keep watching people like just both parties just talking over each other and nobody letting each other like answer a question or get a question off. It gets exhausting. Like, this has been almost 3 hours of a handful of people just like constantly talking over each other.
Socialism equals control.
I want to be respectful
that,
to you, and I've given you a couple questions that you haven't answered yet.
I'll answer any question.
I want to go back to the question that I
The
asked
rhetorical strategy that you're using might be beneficial for a large media platform. It's not based in reality.
If you bring value to me,
New York Presbyterian. We deliver the most babies in New York City and Westchester.
and you're so effective to my company, if you get to a point that I don't give you a good salary and I don't give you equity, what's going to happen to you most likely?
I'm going to try to start a union with my workplace, so that way we can collectively bargain on how to raise the floor for all.
That's cute. A lot of people won't do that. They'll just simply leave.
The options, but guess typically what ends up happening?
What happens? They're busted?
You leave and you go to a different company and they give you
Are you saying
equity.
the owners bust the union? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's
it's not
what
successful?
I'm saying. I'm not talking union. You're talking about a different
What do you
candidate,
think about
different
unions?
person. I think in some places they work. I told you earlier, in many cases they're divisive.
We agree. You also mentioned Wealth of Nations. You like Adam Smith?
I think a lot of his ideas, yes.
Do you disagree, or do you also agree that landlords are parasites?
I don't agree landlords are parasites.
Adam Smith,
No,
even
I
Wealth of
don't- I
Nations
don't-
author,
I
said
don't-
that.
I don't. I
He
know
said
you're-
that rent
you're
is
cherry picking. I don't think landlords.
I love and hate the whole landlords are parasites thing as someone who works in real estate. Look, landlords is a business. Like, owning property and renting it out is a business. Businesses are meant to profit. Parasite, the only people I would consider parasites when it comes to being a landlord are the slumlords that don't take care of the property, don't keep it in a livable condition, and expect people to pay top dollar on top of that. I feel like if you have a property that is completely livable, as in like good quality, don't have to have the best things, but you have to have the necessities there. It's clean. It doesn't have any issues that can cause somebody harm in any way medically, and you try to get as much as you can out of it. That is not being a parasite. And then people go into the New York example of, well, there's so many empty apartments that are under rent control. Yeah, or rent control or rent stabilization. Yes, those are there because if it's going to cost $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 to bring an apartment up to code, and they're only going to be able to make maybe $1,000 on the apartment because of either the rent stabilization or the rent control that's on it, that's 100 months that a landlord's going to have to put up with in order to just break even. 100 months, 100 divided by 12, like, what, you're looking at almost 10 years, under 10 years to do that. And that's not even factoring things like the maintenance that you have to do on the property, the repairs, the liability that you're going to have to do because you have to keep like taking care of the front of the building and inside the building and all of that. When it comes to landlords, it is a business at the end of the day. If they cannot profit, then they will not just, they just won't play the game. They'll still own the asset because it is under their name, but they won't rent it out.
Are parasites. I think in many cases, when you think about what's happening with New York right now, this is why I'm telling you guys, I hope all of us reunite in 4 years and we have a conversation, and I hope Mamdani wins. I am hoping Mamdani wins because that case study is going to get opened up and all of you guys are going to see it.
Can we both agree that corporate Democrats are a stain on this country?
Corporate Democrats,
like Democrats that utilize their leverage and utilize their influence to maximize their own private wealth is a bad thing that we should discourage?
I think.
Yes, I can agree with that one. There's a lot of like, and I think big tech is a big example of that, specifically Meta. Like you have big name people who are very rich, very wealthy, and they utilize their wealth to really like steer elections or steer politicians towards like things that would benefit them mostly. So yes, I do agree with that.
It's their choice. I don't think you and I get to tell them what to do and what not to do.
So you think that like insider trading should be allowed?
I'm not for insider trading whatsoever.
But you just said it's their choice.
No, if you're being
you can
specific,
use your influence.
If you're specific with insider trading, that's a different conversation.
I just think that all of these are examples of why capitalism is not a meritocracy, especially when you're saying that politicians who utilize their influence to maximize their own wealth,
could be right
when you're talking about landlords who are profiting off of necessity for people, or you're talking about business owners who stifle unions for people that just want to collectively organize.
You could be right if the data was shown. I'll shake your hand, absolutely. I'm not trying to disrespect you. No.
Thank you.
You've been very
Appreciate
respectful. No. But for me to tell you this, everything here can be proven based on data.
Correct.
If your policies are so attractive, I'm going to come to you.
Empirical data shows that worker cooperatives are not only more sustainable to market collapses, but they also provide more of an actual attachment to the work that those workers have. The alienation of labor is absolutely making people hate their jobs. Why do you think most people watching probably don't like the workplace that they're in, but still agree that there's some problem in America, whether they're saying it's immigrants or whether they're saying it's billionaires? What the problem is in America is people don't feel an actual attachment to what they're producing in the world.
About Social Security? What do you think about what FDR did?
Wait, do you have nothing to say about those worker cooperatives?
No, because your point's been made. Go back to Social Security. This has been done with, right? If we have a couple minutes.
There is no limitation. We won't challenge completely. In the next...
What do you think about Social Security and how FDR came up with it?
Yeah, I think FDR, from most historians, are placed in the top 3 of all presidents, and that's from conservatives and Democrats. I think that FDR got a lot of things great. I really like his second Bill of Economic Rights. I think it's very vital that we provide people with housing, we decommodify things that are necessities. Do you know the difference between elastic and inelastic goods?
Stay on Social Security.
Oh, so you don't know the difference?
What do you think about Social Security? Stay on that.
Okay. Well, Social Security, I think, was initially had as a social safety net to add a supplemental income to people's pensions. So most people going into like the 1950s all the way up to the 1980s were given pensions by corporations as a promise to, if you work for my firm, I'll make sure that I supplement the exact same salary that you're getting throughout the rest of your life. Now, what Ronald Reagan did was he changed the pensions to contribution-based retirement, which means I have to put this in the 401k, I have to put it in the stock market, and if the stock market collapses...
Do you think Social Security ended up being a system that worked?
I think that Social Security is definitely needed as a supplemental income. And right now, since we have contribution-based retirements, it's absolutely needed, because if you don't want old people eating cat food, we probably need some sort of sustainable income for them.
When he came up with Social Security, do you think his intention was to have 74 million people use it today? Do you think that's what he thought was going to happen?
Yeah, and I think it's because you're not gutting the program in its entirety. So you can say that Social Security is a failure if you take the wheels off of a car. The car's not going to run. But if you continue to buff it up and you make sure that you have good guardrails, it can be a successful program.
The challenge is, a lot of time when you come up with a noble idea to try to fix something today, ends up getting bigger and you never expected it. When Social Security first came out in 1935, the first benefits were paid in 1937, and it was paid in a lump sum. At that time, we had 128 million people living in America. Do you know how many people got Social Security?
Tell me.
54,000. Do you know when benefits started?
Tell me.
65 years old. So let me say this again to you. Life expectancy was 61. Social Security benefits started at 65.
Right. So you're saying because we've increased life, people need to work longer, right?
0.04%.
So grandma should be working at the mill.
Let me make my point, and then you can say anything you want to say.
Well, I'm just saying, you said as life expectancy increases, people should be working longer.
Let me tell you
today. You want to extend the retirement age, correct?
No, if you bring that to today, and you bring the math, exact same formula as the great FDR came up with.
See, Patrick, here's the difference between our worldviews. You're saying that because Social Security,
there's 340 million people. Let me say the point, and then I'll let you speak as long as you want to speak.
Great.
So that went from, math again for you, 54,000 out of 128 million people, 0.04%. Life expectancy 61, benefits start 65. Today, it's 74 million out of 340 million, that's 21%. When life expectancy is 78, benefits start at 65. Do you know who's going to pay the price on Social Security? Not my generation.
Yeah, if we keep doing cuts, correct. If we keep doing cuts,
no, because you're going to run out of money. You're going to run out of money.
No, that's not how it works. So the difference between our worldview, Patrick, is you're saying not only should people work longer into life because life expectancy has increased, but they should work longer into life without guarantees for health care, without preventative care, and that's not only going to increase the deterioration of people's living conditions, it's also going to lead to a worse economy. Because let me tell you, 70-year-olds not going to be the most productive members of our economy. They should be spending time with their families. They should be easing into their passing away. We shouldn't be forcing grandma to go to the mill.
It's going to be on your back. You'll be paying for this in 30 years.
Appreciate you. Yeah, I think that Patrick is a really great salesman. I think that he came in and confidently sold what capitalism is. But I think that the main point of today really showed that capitalism's best product is giving excuses for its own failures.
I don't think that we should be giving these people a large platform to amass a larger following, but I do think that we should expose these people to the light. And I think that even if people have horrendous and repulsive views like he did, I want to hear them because I want to know who those people are.
I also don't think that he really listened to a lot of the claims. I also don't think everyone listened to his claims either. So I don't know how productive of a dialogue it was, but maybe we convinced some people at home one way or the other, and maybe there's some value to that, maybe not.
My vision for America is, if there's anything that's happened after COVID, we used to be here. We disagreed on issues here. This is center, this is libertarian, this is conservative. And then during COVID, we went here, where we are in a very interesting place that some people don't even want to talk to somebody else that they don't agree with. It's gotten to the point that we are a little bit too divided right now, and I'd like to see America be more united than as divided as it is.
So I'll just finish it with this thought because it's late. The one thing that I agree with Patrick David most is what he just said. People are so divided nowadays that nobody wants to actually have a complete discussion with each other. Everybody wants to either try to convince someone to their worldview, or they want to have this debate, but they want to listen in order to talk, not necessarily hear the other person's side, give their side, and then come to like some kind of middle ground on it. It's more like, oh, I just want to spew out everything I believe in, and if you don't believe in what I do, then joke's on you, blah, blah, blah. And unfortunately, that's just the reality of today's climate, especially in the country. I do also hope that we get to a point where people can have discussions without kind of any animosity or anything like that. But that's where I'm going to leave this today. Let me know in the comments what y'all think of this when you see the VODs. And I'm going to start doing more live streams like this. So if you like these kinds of videos, do me a favor, do hit that subscribe button.